Israel's just out here committing terrorist attacks, and Zionists are celebrating. Mehdi Hasan, for some people who thought that he was going to somehow end up on the right side of history because he finally has his own show, his own network. He's no longer working for MSNBC after he was officially but unofficially fired, specifically, by the way, because of his willingness to cover the genocide that's happening in Gaza, which kind of threw all of us off guard. Yeah, he decided he wanted to try and blindside Jill Stein by quoting more propaganda. We're going to talk about Kamala and how even though, like I said, personally, I don't believe the debate hurt or helped necessarily either of them. Apparently, some people think that it exposed Kamala, specifically black people. And then there's the Teamsters endorsement or lack thereof, which we'll also be discussing today. Let me see if there's anything else that I'm possibly missing. Hold on. If to we're gonna be talking about the Lebanon. Oh, excuse me. We're gonna talk about the war that's going on today. And we're also gonna talk about some of these ridiculous comments that we've seen over the last few days from Hotspot. Not from Hotspot, that we've seen posted on Hotspot. Well, I gotta pull up. Why did my stuff just disappear? This is strange. Let's try this again. Hold on, all my stuff just disappeared. All the stuff I need this stuff to talk to y'all. It's important. Had my file open with all my information and just like disappeared out of nowhere. Yeah, let's try this again. There we go. There we go. Now it's open. So let's get some shout outs knocked out. And then we're going to get the show on the road. Make sure y'all like this video. Make sure y'all share this video. And let's get some of these shout outs knocked out. So who we got in the chat today? I saw we got Topher. We got Friendly Brilliant in the chat. We got Brendan confusing me, thinking I'm not talking. We got Chit. What? Not, don't make me pronounce that. I'm just gonna go with Chit. When Ted sent bombs in the mail, it was called terrorism. When Israel sent bombs in the mail, it was called warfare. It was called the most successful and tactical war, anti-terrorist operation in history. Yeah, whatever the fuck. Yeah, you know that BS. Hey, bro, I'm telling you, we're gonna talk about it, but it's almost like all the Zionists had like this weird little Zionist Anonymous meeting, because if you've noticed, after that clear terrorist attack, because there's no other way to describe that other than a terrorist attack. All of a sudden, they all came out and said the exact same thing, more or less, almost like you see when the sock accounts come out, or the paid actors come out whenever they're like, whenever when Joe Biden gave that final speech that was supposed to prove that he was actually mentally capable of being president, and everybody was like, everybody owes Joe Biden an apology. Everybody owes Joe Biden an apology. And it was literally like lists of people repeating the same exact propaganda talking points. That's basically what happened after Israel literally committed a terrorist attack. I don't see any other scenario where almost any other country can get, like, I don't even honestly believe the United States could get away with doing something like that, officially claiming credit for it, and then people being like, yeah, that's totally like a legit military operation. Like in any other world, that's a terrorist attack. But Israel did it. So, somehow they're defending themselves from being invaded by sending bombs and pagers and injuring and killing civilians. Whatever. That's cool. Yo, Niko, you see the chair in Sao Paulo debate? Com certeza. What? We've been laughing about that shit for days. Boy, I couldn't believe. Mar saw himself as a character. Let me just go ahead and say that. The dude that got hit with the chair, he a character in and of himself. He's a wild boy. He be saying some shit. But for those of you who don't know, in the mayoral debate at the very end, Marsal, who's like this billionaire who's kind of like considered a Trump kind of figure out here, but younger, and probably going to be the biggest competition for president going forward if he wins this mayoral election. He basically told the other candidate that he's not a man. I'm just going to summarize it for you. He's like, "You're not a man." And dude was like, "I'm not a man." And this man runs across the stage and hits this man with a chair and breaks a rib and puts him in the hospital. Bruh. I'm gonna see if I can. Actually, I posted it on Twitter. So I'm gonna show y'all that shit later. Bro, when I tell you, when I first saw the video, I thought it was fake. That's how wild that, bro. I know we always joke with each other, like, yeah, man, WWE, that's politics, is just WWE. Yeah, they took that shit serious. And I thought he threw the chair. No, he picked up the chair, walked across the stage, and all you hear is the moderator saying, "No, don't do it." That shit was hilarious. Oh yeah, but man got put in the hospital over that. But I mean, it's kind of worth it. He's like, if you gonna tell me I'm not a man, I'm gonna hit you with a damn chair. All I'm gonna say is both candidates were white, by Brazilian standards and by normal people standards. But I'm just gonna put it like this. Guys, could you imagine if a black person walked over and hit a white politician with a chair just because he said he wasn't a man or wasn't manly enough? I'm just saying, guys, that candidate would probably have zero chance of winning. Like zero, like Predator, so his career would be over, like, dog. And what's even wilder is that normally most politicians, like, there's like a breakdown in Brazil, which is why you see so much kind of chaos here when it comes to politics and the judges. So, like, to make a long story short, most judges, obviously, no, all judges have been lawyers, right? So most judges tend to relate mostly to lawyers, and it's like they have like a little exclusive fraternity. The thing is, most politicians, however, unlike the United States, were not lawyers. They were cops or worked with the police force or high-ranking military. So there's almost like this breakdown. Like that's why politicians here are so like gun-ho and yep, listen to the police. Yep, let's militarize the police. Bro, you got regular police, and then you have people driving around. In some areas, you have police driving around like they're about to go to war. Like they're strapped up in an armored vehicle like they're about to go to war. And so you have regular police and you have literally the military police. And then you have obviously your special forces, which is called BOPI. But that's why, because it's like whenever they want to win an election, they just make a show, they make a few phone calls. They have this network, the politicians have a network of police that they work with because they came from the same background. And then, like, for example, every election, right, maybe 7 or 8 months out from an election, you'll see like it's a major operation. Like they just did one in Cidade Deus. Some of you have probably seen the movie City of God, where they will literally live stream on live TV a police drug operation, and they're telling everybody where they're going before they get there, like, because they're trying to make a big show out of it. But it's like, why are you telling the traffickers where you're going to be at if you're trying to catch them in the act? Because most of them, as you probably know, just like the United States, most of the cops here are working with the drug dealers, and they know they have to put on a show. So it's crazy. Like, yo, Brazilian politics is wild. But that's like the big breakdown. People probably are trying to like figure out how can the judges overall, regardless of their political leanings, be constantly at the necks of politicians. And it seems like the politicians can't do anything. It's because the judges and the lawyers kind of close off. There's like a barrier. Like the politicians can't really do anything with the judges, and the judges can kind of do whatever the hell they want to because they have this exclusivity that comes from understanding the law and being able to manipulate it in a way that politicians maybe in the United States would know how to do because they're mostly lawyers, but in Brazil, they're mostly former cops. So they're learning shit on the fly when it comes to legal stuff, unlike the judges. that tend to screw everybody over here. So anyway, do a couple more shout outs and then we're gonna get started. Thank you very much, Patrick, for the €5. Penny, Israel claimed they did it to thwart assassination attempt from Iran. I hope you're not talking about the Hezbollah thing. Are you saying that Israel came out and said that to stop something from happening because of Iran, they decided to pre-install explosives to then detonate in Lebanon because of a threat from Iran? You know what? That sounds like some Israel logic. We're going to talk about that. That sounds like some damn Israel logic. Appreciate you, Patrick. Thank you very, very much. All right. We got Bender Rodriguez. Operation Paperclip escaped. Nazis lied. Hold on. Operation Paperclip escaped. Nazis live in Brazil and train their military after. Really? That is news to me. I know about them going to Colombia and Argentina. I did not know about that. I'm gonna have to look it up. He said Brazil has hardcore Nazi tactics because they learned all those techniques from German death squads that lived in Brazil and trained local police units. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I just assume that they just have the same tactics, like, you know, that. So y'all know, like, there's a huge Jewish population in Brazil. There's a lot of Israelis here. Some people might not know that, but at least in Rio, hell, a lot of them own the development companies here. They're not even like hiding it. It's like 5-star David development company. So, you know, I'm not surprised by that. I just assume that because it's it was, I think, in Latin America or the Americas in general, the largest slave population. And so I assume that just a lot of the, you know, habits carried over into the 21st century. Man, speaking of David, Mouse said, Lee Camp blocked you. What? That's crazy. For what? What'd you do? City of God is a classic. My brother got the DVD. City of God is actually, so they did like a little ranking with one of the black Instagram channels, and they actually ranked City of God the #1 black gangster movie. Like, and y'all, I don't know if y'all know, but like that's like a big thing in the black community. We like our black gangster movies. Paid in Full, Blow, obviously City of God, Boys in the Hood, you know, all that category of film. And City of God beat out all of them, which is kind of crazy, to the point where that HBO Max did a show. I don't know if y'all been watching it, but the City of God is now a show. But yeah, if you're wondering if it's really like that, so it is still bad. So I just want to be clear. Not as bad as it was, but during that time period of that film, it was that bad. Like, it was probably worse and less organized than what it appeared to be in the film. But if you look at the new City of God show, I like it because they show the side of the favelas that doesn't often get displayed whenever people discuss it. It's a part that people, because everybody's just scared of the favelas because it's the favelas. And you should have a healthy fear if you're not from there. But like a lot of what they call them bandidos, but the drug dealers or whoever you want to call them, they actually do protect the people within the favelas. Like, you can't steal from each other in the favelas. If you get caught stealing, it's a problem. You can't come from outside the favelas and think you about to cause some drama because they on your head. They take care of the kids. If like the kids are playing sports or whatever, they guard to make sure that nobody's like, they guard to make sure that nobody's trying to cause drama. There's not nobody going to war in the streets. If there is some type of gang war for whatever reason, they clear out. Like, they make sure for the most part that innocents are off the streets. So like, yeah, no, it's not perfect. You obviously want the situation to be better, but you're talking about a situation where these people don't have opportunity. Like, this is what they're going to get. And some people are actually very proud of the favelas that they stay in. So they don't leave. And even if they had a better opportunity, they might still choose to stay there. They might just build up their home or whatever, and still choose to stay there and just help out the community. But the new City of God actually shows the side of the favelas that I'm actually more accustomed to seeing in my experiences in Brazil. Man, so with all that being said, bro, y'all, why y'all do that? We all go on this tangent. We got 21 minutes to the show. Y'all like the video? Share the video yet? Make sure y'all like and share. All right. We got, hey, first of all, I'm gonna have to y'all gonna get Matrix real quick. I gotta borrow this video from Kid because I couldn't find the YouTube clip. And we're gonna talk about Kamala. And her she got some problems, guys. It's not looking that good for her at the moment. There was a little belief that maybe this debate helped her. Some people were saying that she won. I once again have been of the mindset that Kamala did not win. Trump did not win. It didn't help either necessarily. It didn't get swayed one way or the other. The debate was milquetoast as hell. But I did feel as if Kamala was guilty of some super gaslighting. Gaslighting more so than what we're accustomed to seeing from her. And actually ended up finding out later on that she actually got help from ABC, which I wasn't aware of. So yeah, so it makes sense how she was able to get away with a lot of it without being necessarily fact-checked to the degree she should have. Apparently, one of these voters, black voters, feel the same way. And Kit covered it, so shout out to Kit for letting me start his video.
Race baiting and fear mongering was a big part of her tactic tonight.
Part of Kamala's tactic?
Yes, Kamala's tactic.
Okay.
Now, I will be raising the volume on this, so I'm going to rewind this again, but I know the volume is a little bit low. It should be a little bit higher, but when I clip the show, I will raise the volume on this segment. I will not interrupt.
Race baiting and fear mongering was a big part of her tactic tonight.
Part of Kamala's tactic?
Yes, Kamala's tactic.
Okay. What in particular would you remember about that?
Especially when she brought up the Central Park Five. I think that's a hot button issue, especially for a lot of African Americans, but she leaves out a lot of specifics to that. Like the lead prosecutor was a Democrat at the time. Back then, Donald Trump was also a Democrat. He wasn't always a Republican. And he was praised heavily in a good way for taking out that ad in the paper because a lot of people did think that they were guilty. So a lot of people that were against Trump now were once a big fan of his. And I think he was gaslit during the entire debate. And that was probably why he was so defensive. Yes. And even when he brought up the topic of race, he brought that up because she's pandering. She's using being Black as a trope to get the Black vote. I'm sorry. But instead of her leaning into it, I would have liked to see her lean into the fact that, yes, I am a Black woman, and this is my plan for Black America. But she clearly doesn't have a plan because she's essentially not Black.
Damn. I wonder what Angela Rod gonna say about that. How dare you, Black woman, question the Blackness of that kind of Black woman? I don't know what else to call Kamala at this point. You know, some people call her African American. I say, you know, she's Afrikinda American. She's like Afrikinda. She's not African, but she's Afrikinda, you know. You don't really know. But so the first part I want to address, once again, shout out to Kit for letting me for not give he gonna let me do it. I'm gonna talk to him about it. But yeah, let me borrow this YouTube clip because I could not find that shit for nothing. So I appreciate it. But I want to address the first part about the Central Park Five. I feel like the context of that is so important because for Kamala to bring it up, the way she brought it up insinuates like, of course Donald Trump said this. Donald Trump is a Republican. His disdain and the way he dealt with it and took out the ad and like it was because Donald Trump was actually a big part of the Central Park Five story, the narrative. She's like, of course, because he's Republican and that's why. But you have to remember, once like this educated voter said, no, he was a Democrat at the time. And you also have to remember this type of thinking, like the way that Trump sold the lie that these kids were guilty and he fear-mongered about these kids' guilt. They were, of course, later exonerated, in case you didn't know. The reason he was able to do so and remain popular not only amongst the average voter or the average citizen, but his peers, was because that was the dominant narrative, even amongst Democrats. Oh, excuse me. Especially amongst Democrats. It's New York City, for goddamn sakes. This happened in 1989. Everything spanned, they weren't exonerated until 2002, but the story of the Central Park Five was prevalent even after they were put in jail because of the appeals and all that good stuff. There was appeals or they were getting out. But the Central Park Five situation was part of the super predator narrative that allowed the 94 crime bill to get passed. So we're talking about New York City, the Central Park Five, Donald Trump's comments and the ad he took out, the 94 crime bill, and the Bill Clinton administration. What do all those things have in common? Democrats. What do I always say, everybody? There is not, ain't nothing better for a Republican or any legislation that a Republican wants to get passed than having a Democrat as president. Because they know whatever that Republican want to get passed is getting passed on a Democrat. You almost can't get it passed unless a Democrat is in power. I couldn't even believe that Bush got No Child Left Behind passed. It wasn't really good. Actually, it was almost a good idea. It was just horribly executed. And it was like an example of how dumb George Bush actually is, but that's a different conversation for a different day. But when it comes to Republican legislation, things that you would associate with a Republican, they don't ever get it done without a Democrat. The problem with the way that Kamala pitched it was oh yeah, man, this was something unique to Trump. No, all your little friends, Kamala, that have endorsed you, that have supported you, that you supported, all your little friends, we're on the same train. They even in the show, if you watch the series, which is a very good series, by the way, if you've read about it, then you can see that they even bring up the fact that it's a media. It becomes like a war in media. They know that the verdict will somehow be affected by the media. It's political. They literally say it. It is not about the truth or lack thereof. It is not about due process anymore. It's somebody has to take the fall for this white woman being attacked. And these black kids can't fight back. Not really. And it was a liberal Democratic prosecutor pushing this. And Donald Trump wasn't doing nothing but basically collaborating with his liberal Democratic friends at the time. He was no different. And that is our problem, right? That is what it ultimately comes down to for most of us. Y'all aren't no different. Could you imagine if Kamala Harris was the prosecutor in the Central Park 5 case? Do we have to even guess how that would have went, guys? Do we really have to guess how Kamala would have prosecuted that case? Hell, they didn't fabricate evidence in the Central Park 5 case. They withheld some. Nah, Kamala would have straight up fabricated evidence. If that dude would have came forward, the guy who actually committed the crime, if he would have came forward and admitted his guilt, Kamala would have pressed ignore. They didn't have cell phones back then, but she still would have pressed ignore. She would have ignored the answering machine. I'll put it like that. As far as what this voter says about the gaslighting, because like I said, you don't have to like Trump to understand. There was so much gaslighting. She kept saying this Project 2025 agenda, this Project 2025. Hey, what's good, JB? JB in the building, everybody. I make sure to go like and subscribe. All his stuff. there was so much gaslighting. Why? She kept saying Project 2025 agenda. Trump has made it clear. He said, bro, I haven't even read Project 2025, which is kind of funny to even say out loud. I mean, but it just lets you know, like, he's like, I don't give a shit about Project 2025. It's written by neocons. The neocons that actually, like, the ones that took part in the Project 2025 policies, because these aren't new policies, it's just a new branding. But the policies are from neocons of old who actually really never got along with Donald Trump. They're only using his name to push this agenda. But he's already said he doesn't want anything to do with it. He doesn't like, and it's rare for Trump to just come out and clearly state something like that. So whatever. We don't really have a reason to not take him at his word in that particular case. He's been consistent on that issue. So why do you keep getting the lie, and why are they not fact checking it? But you know who is fact checking it? These people. And she's like, if you're going to bring that up, like, you're gaslighting. If you're going to bring up race, because I said she had opportunities to address the race issue. It's not the first time either. But I said you got opportunity. If you're going to bring up race, then talk about how your racial experiences are going to help you govern and be considerate of the experiences of the races that you, because you know she's one of those, I'm the president of everybody. Motherfucker, we know you're the president of everybody. So if you're the president of everybody, that means that you have a responsibility to address every concern, you know, within the group, obviously, every concern within the context of that issue or those people's issues. Unions, they have their issues. You need to address that. You're president of everybody, right? Black people have had issues as a direct result of government policy. So you need to address that shit within the context. Indigenous people have had issues with it as a direct result of government policy. So you need to address that shit within the context, et cetera, et cetera. You can't dodge the responsibility that you have to a group of people, minority or otherwise, just because you're the president of everybody. That just means you have more of a responsibility to understand the issues within the context of those groups. But what this young woman is saying is like, you're pretending to be black and you don't even want to talk about black issues. You can't even explain to us how your unique experiences will help you understand and fight for those issues. Because I have thought about, because I've been black my whole life. I know it might be hard for some people to believe. I've been black my whole life. But I've thought about my experience as a black person so much, guys, that my experience as a black person actually helps me understand white working class issues. Like, damn. Okay, now I can see how this could lead to this. This could lead. Like, I always tell the story about how my brother managed this. My brother had a friend that he met in basic training who was from Alabama, who was literally born to one of the top 3 wealthiest slave-owning families from Alabama. This man had never met or talked to a black person and was racist as shit. But it's because he didn't know any better. He literally never met a black person. And over time, after my brother was actually patient with him, because the dude wasn't like trying to be disrespectful. My brother talked to him like, yo, what's good? Like, what's up with you? And after conversation, he's like, oh shit, man, all black people are not like what my family thought they were. But what happened next, which was the surprise to my friend, or my brother's friend too, was that his parents threatened to cut him off for being friends with my brother. And it was at that moment when he realized, like, damn, not being racist actually means I have to give up everybody in my life. I have to be willing to admit the people that I've looked up to are actually full of shit. I have to be willing to cut these people out of my family, like cut the grandparents of my kids out of my kids' life, their aunts and their uncles, their godparents. My teacher wasn't actually right. My mentors weren't actually right. Like, you start to actually, once you actually understand your personal experiences, it actually helps you understand other people's. It's through a different lens, but you get what I'm saying? Kamala basically seems like she doesn't have any experience with anything. She's just a chameleon. Chameleon. Check out the rest of this.
But she used that as a moment to paint him as a racist.
The architect
There's
to
another-
Joe 3.
Punting the first question on the economy. It went on from there. Despite the economy being the number one issue facing the country, the sitting vice president generally reverted to talking points about a few of her policy proposals. Even Harris allies today are saying that she needs to talk more about what she will do for Americans if elected. Senator Bernie Sanders.
What do you mean? Saying opportunity, economy over and over and over and over again isn't enough for working class Americans?
We'll be here in a second to talk about more about the need for her to fill in some of those blanks.
Interesting. Jake, what the hell's going on, man? I'm when Trump pull up for the 50 for him.
Biden on this.
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns.
Debbie J.
Oh yeah, by the way, I learned that that was actually like she did some like low level bullshit with teenage kids, and it wasn't actually anything like what she's describing it as, which I guess no one should be surprised at. 1 second. I want to show you all, like, now people are actually starting to question her, like legitimately question her, which is somewhat of a surprise. Like black people who you would assume would be her voter block, because I think that honestly, yo, social media is crazy. This is why I'm actually so adamant about social media being open and no one being banned and the freedom of speech, because there are black people, black liberals specifically, who at first felt empowered by voting for Kamala and now are actually starting to feel shame. And you know when it started, really, if I'm gonna be completely honest, the war in Gaza, which should have been the trigger, was not the trigger. You know when it started? When Angela Rye straight up fucking embarrassed herself during that Jill Stein interview. And it wasn't just Angela Rye embarrassing herself. It wasn't even just the way that Jill Stein handled herself while she was being bombarded. It was a combination of all three of those things, but then Butch Ware, being the young black genius that he is, and people getting to see the side by side, like, damn, hold up. Angela Rye is a lawyer. Angela Rye is an academic. Angela Rye was an advisor for the CBC. Angela Rye was a political analyst on CNN. Angela Rye has 400,000 or whatever followers on Twitter. And like, she's all this, and we thought she was smart. But then you sit her next to a black person who means what they say and knows what they are talking about. And all of a sudden that you can't play but she's just a white girl talking about black issues card like you could if you were just going up against Jill Stein. And then every black person on social, because Jill Stein, this isn't the first time she supported reparations. This is a consistent policy of hers, by the way. But it's more than just reparations. She's willing to speak about black issues. And she's willing, because I know that this might be a sensitive topic for some people, but I don't know if y'all have noticed, in the liberal world, there is actually a hesitancy to have straight black men have a large platform, or put them in a position to have a large platform. This is a pretty consistent thing. That's never been the case with Jill Stein. Actually, it's been the opposite. But what you saw with Butch Ware is the reason why, because there is a level, there's a standard that we have to maintain. We don't get to mess up. We don't get to be off kilter. We don't get to be quote unquote emotional. We have to learn how to react. We have to know our shit. We have to behave a certain way. We have to be able to speak a certain way. And now, however, if you are one of those black men who have mastered that and have managed to have a platform while doing so, and are anti-establishment, anti-war, pro-peace, understand the economy, now you're a problem. Because all the tropes that they can use to try and shut you down, the superficial tropes that they try to use to shut people down, that shit gets thrown out the window now, does it? When you say black and you talk about Kamala, and then you say black and you're looking at Butch Ware, you're like, man, and then say black again, and you're looking at Angela Rye, and it's like, man, okay, apparently there is different kind of blacks. The black experience is a meaningful conversation that needs to be had if people are going to be throwing it out in the way that they have been in the case of the support of Kamala. And that's why social media needs to be open. And that's why people need to not be banned. And this is why we need, I don't give a damn what you're saying. If you're telling a lie, we combat it with the truth. Because that interview has changed so many people's opinions. And that's why it's important that we continue to fight for free speech. And that's one of the reasons why I'm such a free speech absolutist.
Have the resources to be able to buy a crib, buy a car, extraordinarily heavy in healthcare providers receive work is some of the most taxing work you can imagine. And I actually, when my mother was sick with cancer, did a lot in terms of taking care of her. And the
I don't really
work
believe
that is about taking care of a loved one, in particular an elder, is extraordinarily heavy in terms of the emotional tolls, so that young meet their other needs. And to the economy overall, it's strengthened.
Opportunity tour. But polling shows that some black men, particularly young black men, are considering voting for Donald Trump, and they see him as better for the economy. What is your message to young black male voters who feel left out of this economy, and how can your economic policies materially change their lives?
So I appreciate the spirit of the question, but I'll tell you, I've often been asked this.
No, first of all, I'm just letting everybody know, if you start out your answer to I appreciate the spirit of the question. If you start off your answer to a question like that with I appreciate the spirit of the question, you know everything after that is about to be some bullshit. And Kamala does not disappoint.
This question in a way that I've had to respond by first saying that I think it's very important to not operate from the assumption that black men are in anybody's pocket. Black men are like any other voting group. You got to earn their vote.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Like, guys, so I have a question for you guys. I'm genuinely curious what you all think. Given her initial response to that question, do you feel like she got these questions in advance? Because to me, that's I'm going to get this question. I don't really have an answer. Let's put some good things are good, bad things are bad responses without ever addressing what he actually said. And let's just deal with it from there. Because I know you did not just say like one of those, yeah, you got to earn the black man's vote. They're in nobody's pocket. No, we never said that we were in anybody's pocket. I didn't. If a black person is, shucking and jiving for somebody, we'll say that. But I mean, I think that everybody here knows we've seen black influencers, very popular black influencers in the pockets of both Democrats and Republicans. I've never really heard an argument at all saying that black people were in the pockets of Democrats. In fact, when Kamala announced, or rather whenever they just handed her the motherfucking nomination, there was a whole thing out the gate saying that we were going to throw her under, that all black men have a responsibility to not throw her under the bus because they were already preparing for us to do so, which was kind of weird. I'm like, oh, that's a weird conversation to be starting out this fucking campaign with. You would assume the conversation would be, hey, Kamala, are you going to not continue to participate in genocide? But it was, you better not question Kamala's blackness, and oh yeah, black men, you more than anybody better get behind her because we know how y'all are. That's what the conversation was. I don't know if y'all remember that shit, but on Black Twitter, that's all we kept seeing. They even had a whole damn meeting, and they just had another one recently, but they had a whole meeting where they were telling black men to fall in line. But I will say this, if Kamala is going to say, I don't want to assume, we need to earn the black man's vote, the black men are not in anybody's pocket, you know what? Maybe that's a goddamn problem. We aren't in anybody's pocket. We are not. Affirmative action benefits who? Primarily white women, when it comes to crime, as far as profiling, false accusations, serving sentences that we don't deserve, who usually bears the brunt of that burden? Black men. We're the last in line to be helped. We're the first to be held responsible. And we're the last to be pandered to. And once again, straight black men are the least of the concerns of the majority of both parties. And that's just a fact. It's not, I mean, hey, get it how you live. Like, I don't really care if if you are gay or whatever. Like, that's cool. Get it how you live. But my point is, as far as a demographic, like making a strategic point to reach out to black men and put us first, like, that shit doesn't happen. What are you talking about? That's not a thing. You can see it in independent media. It's not a thing. So I don't know. It would be nice maybe if they would if somebody would start actually valuing us. Because every time y'all want to put up a black man somewhere, it's time to talk about a black issue, time to get a black person, time to pander to a black person, time to pander to a black group, time to convince these black people that this white candidate didn't screw over these black people, that they're going to be different, like, or y'all can just value us as we are and let us give our opinions and respect us because we're in the same professional spaces. We have our own lived experience like everybody, but at the same time, we still have contributions that we can make that don't only involve us being black. I know that's like a crazy concept, but the fact she's like, oh man, yeah. Let me just say, y'all not at anybody's pocket. I have to earn your vote. Okay, what the fuck? Duh. But thanks for letting us know.
So I'm working to earn the vote, not assuming I'm going to have it because I am black, but because the policies and the perspectives I have understands what we must do to recognize the needs of all communities. And I intend to be a president for all people.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't sound like she want my vote. Hold on. I asked you about all communities. He didn't ask you about all communities. You got to earn their vote by being the president of everybody and doing everything for everybody. You know what? You think that speech will fly? Like that line would fly in the APAC conference when you're trying to get like Zionist votes? Would that fly? I'm going to prove to Zionists and Israelis everywhere and Jewish people everywhere that I care about their issues. I'm going to earn their votes by making sure I take care of everybody and treat them all the same. Would that fly at the APAC conference? Would that fly if she was only in a room full of women? What? You got to think about it. Think about it like this, guys. Reproductive rights is for some reason, even though she has no control over it, whatever, reproductive rights is one of the most pivotal issues of Kamala Harris' campaign. So even women get an exclusive focus. But whenever black men in this particular case is brought up, it's we'll deal with your problems with everybody else's. Good luck, get in line. Do you understand how when you think about it from that perspective, as a black man, why would you vote for her? Because at least Trump is telling the lie. Trump is like, I'm going to do what I can for black people. He's acting like he won't make exceptions for us. I mean, into some degree with the First Step Back and things like that. And even the HBCU thing, like he's done some stuff that helped black people, but like he pretends like he did it just for us, just to damn placate us, just for shits and giggles. Like, yeah, that's probably not the case, but I'm gonna say it. What she is doing here is like, she's hedging her bet. She knows she feels entitled to the black male's vote. She knows the network that's been put behind her to push the black males into her camp. She knows that already. But she is still telling us, specifically black men, yeah, but y'all ain't really about to get shit. And you're not really focused on my campaign. Not in any material way. Like the focus of black men when it comes to my campaign is what the fuck y'all need to do to get me elected. But hey, women, I got y'all. Hey, Pat, y'all the homie still. Am I lying?
Specifically as it relates to what we need to do, to your point around economic opportunity. Yes, I started way before I was at the top of the ticket at what I called an economic opportunity tour, focused on Black men. Understanding that, for example, we have so many.
Hold up. Did she say before she even got on the ticket, she started an opportunity tour focused on Black men? Wow, that's news to us. I would like to see somebody talk about that or show me a link to that because I've never heard of that.
Entrepreneurs in the community who do not have access to capital, but they've got great ideas, an incredible work ethic, the ambition, the aspiration, the dream, but don't have the relationships necessarily. So my work has included, as vice president, getting billions more dollars into community banks, including working with the big banks to do that, so that we can increase access to capital for our small businesses, for our startups. Part of my plan under my economic opportunity plan going forward is that right now, startup entrepreneurs, small businesses only get a tax deduction of $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000. So I'm expanding that to $50,000. Understanding, again, that when people have the opportunity to have the resources to get started, they're going to put the good ideas, they're going to put the hard work into it. And part of what I also know is that our young Black men, our Black men, just like any group of people, anybody, our small businesses are really the backbone of our economy overall. And when they do better.
Yo, see how she did it again? She's like, well, what we really need to understand is that our Black men, young Black men, like everybody, she keeps grouping us with everybody. Like, if you gonna treat me like everybody else, I'm just gonna treat your ass like every other politician. And I'm just gonna say, fuck you. I don't know, like, if I was a Black man, I didn't know any better, and Trump is saying that he's going to prioritize me, because Trump has said this. He's not going to prioritize Black people. He's not going to. He doesn't prioritize anybody really but himself and wealthy people and people, who's in front of his face at the time. He's going to tell whoever whatever lie he needs to make them happy. Cool. But lie to me. Pretend that I have some type of significance, that my experiences matter to you. You are literally running on being a Black woman. Pretend. You literally, bro, y'all know that Roland Martin and a few others had a whole meeting for Black men for Kamala. What is the point of even having it? Y'all should have had a fucking meeting, all men for Kamala. Because what's the point? Black men for Kamala, in her mind, isn't even a thing. It's not necessary. Why? Because Black men are the same as everybody else. Yep. When we know that's not the case. It's not the case.
Better economically, we all do better. Part of my work is about understanding what we need to do in dealing with, for example, the historic inequities that have faced the Black community around home ownership, right? I don't have to go through the history with anybody here about what that has meant in terms of redlining, what that has meant in terms of biases and home appraisals, and what the impact it has had on stemming the opportunity to build intergenerational wealth because of those obstacles. So part of the work that I have done and will continue to do is identify.
Actually, it would be nice for her to go through the history of that. It would actually be, why it would be nice for her to go through the history of that? But I'm going to go with one of two, probably both, but I'm going to go with one of two reasons. She doesn't know. She doesn't really know. She's just, used the buzzword because most Black people do understand to some degree what redlining is, especially academics. But the real reason why is because she doesn't want to say that it was a Democrat, specifically FDR, the Democratic Jesus, who instituted redlining. It was the Fair Housing Act. It was the government under a Democratic president that instituted redlining. And Democrat after Democrat after Democrat allowed for it to continue. And then you have Democrats like, for example, Bill Clinton, who not only allowed it to continue, but of course, even though it was supposed to have stopped, but it was the last case that was prosecuted, I believe, was in 2014. Actually, maybe 2016, but at least 2014. But you got Democrats like Bill Clinton who took advantage of it because people were grouped into communities and they were able to target those black poor communities after because they knew where they were. Redlining allowed you to it was like a GPS of poverty. So then you weaponize the ATF and the DEA, flood a bunch of drugs and guns in these communities, and you fuck them over. The reason she didn't, so either she didn't know the history or she doesn't want to go into the history because the history reveals, once again, damn. So you telling me everything that a Republican, like a Republican's wet dream legislatively, Democrats are living in real life and they make it happen. Once again. So explain to me why you would be different. That's what the next question would be. Why? Like, because all you're doing, you would end up just educating people on how much Democrats are the same, just more effective when it comes to being Republican, or at least neocon.
Speak truth about those obstacles and address them. Another example is medical debt. 1 in 4 Black families or individuals is more likely to carry medical debt than others. So part of my perspective, and as vice president, part of the work that we have done is to say that we're going to eliminate medical debt from being on your credit score.
First of all, Kamala Harris was the deciding vote, the tie-breaking vote for Medicare for all, and she killed the bill. Talking about helping black people, pretty sure, because you all about for all, she ain't gonna do nothing for us, but shit, since she's for all, she could have at least passed Medicare for everybody. And it was like, yeah, but no. Yeah, so.
Because.
And that's actually not even the case. I don't know. I think I gotta look it up. No, medical bills actually do still appear on your credit, depending on the situation. So I'll look up the specifics to get back to you on that, but it's not exactly how she said it is.
Until now, medical debt worked against your credit score, and people know their credit score like your weight, right? You know that number. And the difference between what that number is and what it needs to be is the difference between you being able to get a car loan, a small business loan, or even a leasing on an apartment. And so part of my approach is understanding the obstacles that traditionally and currently exist to allow anyone, including black men, be able to achieve economic wealth. And I'm gonna tell you, I don't think it is sufficient to just only talk about economic policy around reducing unemployment. It is an important marker, and I'm proud of the work that we've done thus far. But
you mean the work where all y'all fake jobs got exposed, and then they had to say that y'all was lying about the unemployment numbers and y'all was cooking the books? You proud of that?
It should be a baseline there. Everybody's working. The point is, do people have an opportunity to build wealth? If that's what they choose to do, if that's what they want to do. And a lot of my perspective as we go forward is just that. I believe that there are a lot of opportunities that are available to the American people if we just see people and understand what they want for themselves and their families and then meet them where they are.
Madam Vice President, I want to switch gears.
How you gonna switch gears on that shit? That's crazy. See, this y'all, am I crazy? Am I being too harsh? If I am, let me know, guys. Let me know. I'm curious. Y'all know I very rarely just straight up talk about black people and black benefits. I talk about everything, but like, what the fuck, guys? What am I? You literally just barely told us in more or less words, we don't really care about y'all. Y'all cannot like me if you want to. So here's what I'm gonna do for everybody. And if y'all benefit from it, all right, cool. If you don't, which you probably won't, because she ain't really gonna pass policies for anybody. So there's that. Even so, in a hypothetical situation, she wouldn't. Nobody would benefit because it's Kamala Harris. She wouldn't do any of this shit. She wouldn't do the bare minimum because her donors wouldn't allow her to. She's not in control of shit. But you could even hypothetically lie to us to be like, you know what? The experiences of black men like all demographics, are unique and should be dealt with as such. And here's why. Bomb, bomb, bomb. You can list off the statistics and you can understand why there needs to be a certain amount of attention paid to a community that has been maligned, that has been attacked legislatively, that has been painted as predators and has paid the price for it. I ain't just talking about wealth. I'm talking about with lives, families that have been separated. There's a narrative that has followed black men for centuries now that you can easily apply to basically any other ethnicity. But you know, the people in power, mostly wealthy white men, you can easily apply that narrative to them. But it doesn't get applied. And therefore, they don't necessarily face the consequences. Y'all ever heard the story of Tim Allen? About how he tried to cross the Canadian border with a bunch of cocaine and they let him go because he was a promising up-and-coming young comedian. And he wasn't crossing the border to like with a little bit, just to do himself, you know, to keep himself energized for the show. No, he was trafficking cocaine. They let him go. Charges dropped. If that was a black man, I mean, need I say more? I know I was joking about with the you know the Brazilian mayoral debate where old boy hit Marcel with a chair. Could you imagine a black man doing that? And I mean, I'm pretty sure like this wasn't Don Detani, I think that's his name. Don't quote me on that. Starts with a D. But my point is, I'm pretty sure he's not even in jail right now. Which is crazy to say. I don't think he's in jail right now. That was one of us? Yeah, we gone. That's damn the election, boy. You lucky if you ain't getting 6 months. That's aggravated assault, bro. Like, you're done. And you're now the super predator. Will Smith took how long to recover from slapping somebody for talking about his, you know, crazy ass wife? I know she crazy. That's not the point. I know Jada's a demon, succubus. That's not the point. Some people would consider defending your wife like that because after somebody's making fun of a disease that she has as masculine. Because I ain't gonna lie, you talk about my wife, if she has a disease like that, you talk about my wife, yeah, I'm probably gonna do the same thing. I'm probably gonna whoop your ass. I don't give a damn. But most people would feel like that. It's kind of it'd be weird if you didn't feel like that. But like how he was thrown under the bus immediately and everybody demonized him and very few people, everybody was talking about the decorum, not like somebody who is still for some reason in love with this woman who's crazy as hell, but whatever. This is still his wife. He had a right to love her. And if he felt that strongly about it, that's a way that you do usually feel about somebody you love. Right? But the way he was demonized after was incongruent, I feel like. And that's just the norm. So why keep putting us in a group with everybody when everybody has not had our experience? She wouldn't put black women in a group with everybody because everybody has not lived the experience of a black woman. She would not put Southeast Asian women in the same group because not everybody has lived the experience of a Southeast Asian woman. You can say that for basically every major group. But I just, like I would feel, if I was a black man and I wasn't aware of Jill Stein and Butch Ware, yep, I'm going to Trump. That's what I would do. If I was a black man in a vacuum, didn't know nothing about politics, and I heard Trump speak and I heard this woman speak, because you keep telling me I don't matter, that I'm not special. In the same in the same breath, you will tell women their reproductive rights deserve priority because they are women and we should respect it. Which, okay, fine, but Hey, what about us? Can us not being thrown in jail at a disproportionate rate to put money in the pockets of board members of private prison industries, can that take priority too? But I'm a cop. I don't know if I can do that. Damn, bro. But you know what happens? The chickens come home to roost. And it isn't just black men who are feeling left out from Kamala's campaign and her rhetoric. It's also working class people. Once again, I think after that conversation, and you can go watch the whole thing if you want, but I think you get the gist. If you watch that conversation, I feel like it almost becomes painfully obvious. It becomes painfully obvious why they hide her from the cameras. It becomes painfully obvious because if you hit me, I couldn't be her speech coach. I couldn't be a strategist for her. I couldn't be her speech coach. None of that. Because I swear to God, if you hit me with I appreciate the spirit of that question, I'm going to lose my damn mind. I know you did not just say that shit. You know that people going to replay this? There's somebody who's going to go, what the hell does that even mean? If somebody asked her what that meant right then and there, she'd be like, it means I appreciate the spirit of the question. Okay, what's the spirit of the question then? Is the spirit in the room with us right now? Like, what the I would lose my mind. And it becomes painfully out. Every time she talks, she loses support. And now the Teamsters have refused to endorse Kamala Harris. And this is a multi-layered situation. But first, Teamsters released presidential endorsement polling data. For the past year, the Teamsters Union has pledged to conduct the most inclusive, democratic, and transparent presidential endorsement process in the history of our 121-year-old organization. And today, we are delivering on that promise to our members, said Teamsters General President Sean M. O'Brien. Our members of the union and their voices and opinions must be at the forefront of everything the Teamsters do. Our final decision on a possible presidential endorsement will not be made lightly. So this was done September 18th, 2024. As you all know, they decided not to endorse anybody. Yeah. So, like I said, there's a lot to unpack here. Part of the reason why there's a lot to unpack is because of these goddamn polls. So this is whenever they thought Biden was going to be in power. Biden was actually winning pretty handily. 44% Biden, 36% Trump, 5%, almost 6% RFK, and West is on here. For some reason, Joe Stein isn't on here. I don't know why. You would think that the union, Teamsters Union would be like considering Joe Stein, but whatever. After Harris joined, Harris at 31%, Trump at 58%, undecided at 6%, don't know at 5%. I don't know, like they just decided to I guess because we're getting closer to the election. Oh, maybe because at this point when they conducted this poll, perhaps RFK dropped out the race. But once again, West and Jill Stein are in the race, and Jill Stein does have the ability to, technically speaking, can win. So it should have. But this 58% is crazy. That's crazy. I don't know if that's obviously part of that swing is from Kamala dropping out, from Joe Biden dropping out, and they don't like Kamala for some reason. I don't know why. That's a big ass difference. But 58%, That sounds like, so they did make a choice. But the Teamsters Union, they did not endorse a candidate. I don't know how. Listen, guys, if you wanted to make a statement, because that's what everybody's saying, they wanted to make a statement. Teamsters Union, and we're going to look at an interview real quick because they're going to explain their decision. But if you wanted to make a statement, I would have endorsed Jill Stein. That would have been a huge statement. But, ladies and gentlemen, if 58% of your organization supported endorsing a candidate, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong here, it is the obligation of the organization's leaders to follow the wishes of the majority of that organization. Right? It don't matter if you like Trump. I don't like Trump. But if I'm part of this organization and 58% are like, yeah, like, because it's supposed to be a democracy, more or less. Right? That's kind of the whole point of these type of organizations. It's to make sure that everyone feels heard and they feel seen, that their decisions are, their decisions and their prerogatives are being respected and that they respect each other's. So if Trump got 58%, how the hell is your conclusion? Yeah, we just not gonna endorse anybody. And I meant to look this up, and I'm gonna look it up right now for y'all. Because we need to know a list of Teamsters presidential endorsements in the past. I need to know, because saying that you're not going to endorse anybody makes me believe. Hold on, let me see. Hold up. Oh man, that's crazy. Apparently recently they endorsed Adam Schiff. That's wild. I mean, I know the Teamsters, generally. That's kind of my point. Teamsters, if I'm not mistaken, generally endorse Democrats. And so the union poll, for everybody who's curious, actually, I'll pull this up for you guys. Let me pull this up. Because we need some answers. I'm going to zoom in so everybody can see this. So we're going to get to the bottom of this. Juntos. Estamos juntos. So, union poll of 1.3 million members shows they prefer Trump over Harris by 59.6%. That was a final. Damn, to 34%. Teamsters have endorsed. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Teamsters haven't. I just wanted to confirm. I ain't want to lie to y'all. Teamsters have endorsed every Democratic candidate for president since 2000. This is the first time since 1996 the union is not making an endorsement. In the 1996 situation, makes a whole lot of sense, if you all recall. A lot of drama. I'm gonna leave it at that from 1996. So it says that the International Brotherhood of Teamsters said on Wednesday that the union will not endorse any U.S. presidential candidate, despite polling that shows a majority of members backed Republican candidate Donald Trump over Democrat Kamala Harris. 1.3 million member union, which represents truck drivers, a wide range of other workers, ranging from airline pilots to zookeepers, had released a national electronic poll of its members Wednesday that showed rank and file members preferred the former president over Vice President Harris by 59.6% to 34%. The Teamsters have endorsed every Democratic candidate for president since 2000, but have on occasion endorsed Republicans, including President Ronald Reagan in 1984 and Vice President George H.W. Bush in 1988. So effectively, I mean, I don't know about a Democrat as a Republican get, but whatever. It is the first time since 1996 the union is not making an endorsement. So, but So the most important part is, for the first time so the Republican Party, as you all know, used to be considered the working class party. So this actually does make sense that they endorse Reagan and Bush. But for the first time in 24 years, they're not endorsing a Democrat. And obviously, they're choosing to ignore the members' endorsement of Trump. Is anybody find that to be a little bit problematic? Anybody? So what we're going to do is really quick, we're going to hear from the leadership, because I'm going to give them a chance. I'm going to give them a chance. So we're going to listen to the leadership, and we're going to get down to the bottom of this, because we need explanations. How are you going to ignore the votes of 1.3 million people? Boy, that is a small city. That is a small city. If they were voting for mayor, Trump would have won with a mandate to do whatever the hell he wanted to. And they're just like, yeah, we know 60% of our members wanted Trump, but nah. Illusion of choice, though, right?
I've been looking forward to this interview for some time, especially given the last-minute drama. I'm talking about a chat with Sean O'Brien. He is the Teamsters General President. We've talked to him many times over the years, and he speaks his mind. That's why I'm a little surprised by this news today that the Teamsters will not be officially endorsing a presidential candidate. So I thought to myself, Neil, when you talk to Sean, ask him how a guy who was invited to speak before Republicans at their convention but didn't get the same honor at the Democratic convention could decide not to support the Republican nominee. And here he is, Sean O'Brien. Good to have you, Sean. Why not? Why not Donald Trump?
How are you, sir? Well, listen, we interviewed both candidates, and we were seeking commitments from both candidates, and we couldn't get solid commitments on our core issues like the PRO Act, like vetoing national right to work, like staying out of labor disputes and not trying to force any contracts on us, like what happened to our brothers and sisters in the rail industry. We didn't get solid commitments from either candidate, which was a major factor in our decision as a General Executive Board not to endorse any candidate. However, we did a lot of polling, as you know, and the polling leaned heavily toward.
Did y'all just hear that shit? That in fact, that affected our decision as the executive board. Why did you even ask everybody then? So you decided on behalf. Now, don't get me wrong. Once again, if you didn't want to endorse either candidate because they're full of shit, I'm not even gonna be mad at you about that. I am mad that y'all didn't endorse Jill Stein, and this wasn't even consideration. Because it should have, with 1.3 million people participating, I feel like that should have been a huge consideration. Jill Stein. That should have been. So that's already kind of undercutting the democratic process here. But for y'all to take that within your own hands is the problem that some people have with unions right now. Is that you're not really unions. It's just as political as politics. It's just as political as a corporation. It's like I can have a small share in something and you're telling me every shareholder matters, every shareholder's voice matters, but really you don't give a damn if I'm not sitting on that board of directors or if I'm not the primary shareholder. I would have more respect, even as somebody who's going to vote for Jill Stein is not voting for Trump. I would have way more respect for that board if they went by the wishes of their members. Because of everything that we're experiencing and seeing today. It's like every time the people are screaming, we want one thing, they're literally doing the opposite. Or they're hedging, or they're bullshitting, or they're ignoring us. And this is just yet another example of another powerful institution, another influential institution, setting another standard, another precedent of, the people might want this, but fuck the people. We don't really care what they want. We're going to do what we want to. Super Seamster Sewing Show. Thank you very much for the super chat. Thanks, Niko. Keep dropping truth. Bakersfield, California. Appreciate you. Let's continue. I hope that, I'm telling you, this don't really sound like a good reason so far, but we're going to give him a chance.
Towards former President Trump. So that tells you that
very heavily, Sean. And I'm just wondering, do you look disconnected from your members?
No, we're definitely not disconnected from our members because, look, we did extensive poll.
60%, bro. 60%. Yeah, you're a little disconnected from your fucking members, bro. You're a little disconnected. If you would have, once again, because my thing, why did you do the poll? Because you're like, we had the meeting, and this meeting was actually the ultimate deciding factor on who we decided to endorse, which was nobody. So why did you even do the poll? Why did you do the poll if it didn't matter? Because all you did by showing this poll is basically put on display how disconnected you are and your board is from the rest of your people.
That was important. Our goal as leaders, as union leaders, as leader of the Teamsters, is to provide the ability for people to have a voice and to provide credible information. And we cannot dictate to our members. Our members are sophisticated. They're going to make their own decisions. But this is a bigger problem. You know, the Democrats have always taken for granted that they're going to get our vote no matter what. And the Republicans are fancying themselves as the working people's party. I think right now both sides have to take a step back and really reevaluate what their commitment is to working people.
I agree with that. I do. Okay. And all that might be true. But if the Republicans have been taking it for granted, I'm sure that Trump isn't going to, because that's just not Trump's way to guarantee a bunch of shit to a bunch of people. Like, that's just not who he is. He's always about negotiating and keeping, he likes to keep the conversation open, as it were, as a businessman would. Okay, cool. Y'all endorsed Joe Biden. It's a union buster, a historic union buster. Oh, they've always taken our vote for granted. It feels to me, and y'all correct me if y'all think I'm wrong here, it feels to me that the only reason you didn't endorse Kamala is because your people endorsed Trump. Because you endorsed Biden last year, you conducted the first poll with the understanding that Joe Biden was going to be the presidential nominee. Obviously, that changed. Biden was winning. It's like with the Teamster members. But one of the examples he gave is forcing contracts onto us, union, busting, like how Joe Biden got involved with the railroad worker situation. Y'all remember that? And like, if that was the case, why didn't you come out and say, look, this is what our demands are. We're going to meet with both of y'all. And until someone agrees to these demands, we're not endorsing anybody. We're going to do a poll, but that's just supplementary. This is what it is. This is how we're going to handle it. If you don't, and we're going to change the standard that has been set when dealing with both of you guys. That's not what happened. It seems like the only reason you're not endorsing anybody is because your people decided they wanted Trump. And in my humble opinion, as somebody who has no skin in this particular game, that is wrong. And you're now trying to work backwards from a conclusion that you and your little board members made as to why you undercut the will of your union members.
And that's what we did in this process.
All right, but it does make me wonder when 2 out of 3 of your members prefer Donald Trump. Now, it's a telephone survey, I grant that, but that trend has been around for a while where members tend to favor more the Republican candidate than the Democratic candidate, but that's a pretty overwhelming shutout right there. So
well, I think
60%.
Did that come into your thinking or no?
We evaluated everything. We evaluated the straw poll, which was done in person, which, as you know, when you have an audience, you can influence that audience. We figured that was going to lean heavily towards President Biden, and it didn't lean heavily towards him. And then we did the poll where 40,000 of our members participated in that. That's a 60% poll, the other 58% poll that you see. And then we did the research-based polls. And 2 out of those 3 polls leaned Republican. So again, I'll get back to, there's a lot of work that got to be done. Our members are paying attention, and again, no endorsement.
Oh, so you say your members are paying attention. You say that they're paying attention, but you won't respect their wishes. Like, then why? Why did you spend all that money on all these polls? And they went through thorough detail. It's like they were looking for, they put all these polls out there and they used all these different methodologies to get these results. And like, they did not like what they got. And they spent this money trying to get a result that they wanted, like the board members wanted, and they just never got it. And so they're like, yeah, fuck it. We're just not going to endorse it. We're not going to endorse anybody then. And we're going to work backwards from our conclusion as to how we came to this decision that makes no sense to anybody who's looking from the outside in.
I think sends a message to both parties that if they truly want to support working people, they have to reevaluate it and understand that nothing is given, it is earned.
20 years y'all gave it to, 24. Well, 20 years. 20 years y'all gave it to Democrats. Y'all endorsed Adam Schiff, guys. Adam Schiff. Or Adam Schiff. Or Adam Shifty, rather. Because his eyes was basically as shifty as a snake. Adam Schiff. You can't be like, nothing's given when you've been giving endorsements to union busters like Joe Biden already. You already did it. It happened already. You can't be like, yeah, man, so this party that is known, that the party that sent all of our jobs overseas, not all of them, obviously, but a good amount of them, right? The Democratic Party has damn near been the doom at the federal level, has damn near been the doom of what have traditionally been considered to be union jobs. Like when we're talking about the manufacturing industry, that was like the backbone of union jobs back in the day. Yeah, how many millions of jobs got sent overseas and y'all just decided to reward them with blind loyalty for 20 years? And then you got the audacity to sit up here and say nothing is given in the one instance you want to ignore your members? It basically just, to me, seems like, and what's also crazy, because if this interviewer is telling the truth, this guy was even invited to speak at the Republican convention, at Trump's convention. Democrats didn't even invite him. They're like, yeah, nah, bro. You know what time it is. You're supposed to go ahead and pull that lever for your dog. That's how Democrats treated him. So even with like the Republicans letting y'all down in some instances, okay, once again, I feel like it's not any more or less than Democrats have. Well, probably a little bit less because, NAFTA. But at least the Republicans gave you a platform, listened to you, put you in front and center to let you know their demands are, to let them know what your demands are. Democrats gave you they treated you like you was Palestinian, dog. So in my opinion, if you really, really, truly wanted to make a statement, you should have endorsed Jill Stein. Am I crazy for saying that? Am I crazy for thinking like that would have been the biggest statement that you could have made? They have, because 1.3 million vote, like that's crazy. I didn't even know the Teamsters Union was that big, guys. 1.3 million is a city. A city with a significant economy. Think about it like this: 1.3 million voters in in a popular vote situation could determine the outcome of an election. And given how many of those 1.3 million voters are in swing states, because the union states are usually states that have unions outside of California, in New York, a lot of those people live in swing states that can go either way. So like that many people could swing an election. And when two people did not give you the assurances that you deserved, that you were asking for as a major representative demographic of the voter base, you could have went to Jill Stein and be like, if y'all don't want to play ball, I'm going to get down with my girl Jill and Butch. Maybe y'all play ball then. After y'all lose a million votes, obviously not a million would vote for them, but maybe 500,000 would. Because if they made that announcement about Jill Stein, how many of them do you think would begin to look into Jill Stein? all of a sudden, Jill Stein got a whole nother campaign trail she has to go on because she's learning that she's getting endorsed by the Teamsters, and now she's getting invited to speak at Teamsters, local Teamsters meeting and events, national Teamsters events, getting invited by union members all over the country. Because if the Teamsters endorsed her, maybe we should look into her. That's a pretty significant deviation from the norm. But instead, they took the coward's way out. The board took the coward's way out, and they ignored their own members. Which is the problem with not just unions, but powerful institutions in general in the United States. This is the same shit you see with NGOs. This is the same shit you see with 501c4s. Like I said, I worked for the Working Families Party in New York, right? The National Working Family Party's board conducted a poll within the organization. Because a lot of the times, back in the day, they would endorse a Democratic primary candidate as it became clear there was only going to be 2 or 3 left. Obviously, as you know, in 2016, it came down to Bernie and Hillary. They conducted a poll as if they were going to actually respect the results of that poll and make the endorsement. Bernie Sanders won. I mean, it was a Working Families Party, and at the time, to be fair, the Working Families Party was more or less progressive. Bernie won and was kind of overwhelming. And you know what they decided instead? Yeah, we're just not going to endorse anybody. That's what they said. We were like, then why the fuck? We had to stay after work, bro. You know, we was out there canvassing all day. It's cold as hell in New York. We stayed after work to vote in this poll, to do the counts and everything, make sure everybody's voice got heard. Because we had to wait till everybody got back. Make sure that nobody was doing, counting and recounting. We did all this work to vote. Bernie won. And they were like, yeah, nah. Sorry, man. We got donors to worry about. They were hoping that the results would reflect what the conclusion that they wanted. But when that conclusion did not come into fruition, they were like, yeah, we're just going to stay out of it then. But then, of course, after the primary was over, it was immediate. No demands from Hillary, just an endorsement immediately. With no demands. But within a lot of these organizations, as you'll find, they don't endorse anymore to lend their credibility necessarily. Right? They endorse for donations. They endorse for email listings. Because the Democratic Party will share that shit with them to help fundraise. Like if you want to help. So if Kamala, for example, wants the let's just say Extinction Rebellion. If she wants them, they'll hit the board members will strike a deal. They get that email list from the Democratic Party. Now the Extinction, I'm just using this as a random example. This is not real. I mean, they are both real, but the example is theoretical. The Extinction Rebellion would get that list, which is money. Data is money. Data is fundraisers. Data is dollars. And Kamala Harris gets that endorsement. And it lets everybody else who's with Kamala Harris, part of that little mafia network, know, okay, we can trust those people at Extinction Rebellion. We can trust the people at the top. Not fuck the rest of everybody else. We can trust those board members. And they work together going forward. That's how it works. Endorsements from these institutions don't really mean shit anymore. It's an opportunity for the institution, not necessarily an opportunity for the candidate. So if you really wanted to make a statement, in my humble opinion, you should have endorsed Jill Stein. You disingenuous piece of shit. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's only you just straight up said, fuck everybody. I just can't believe you just ignored 60% of your union members. That is nuts. That is anti-democratic. Jesus Christ. Anyway, speaking of Jill Stein, y'all know Mehdi Hasan. So y'all know Mehdi Hasan has been out of a job, right? Y'all know that. Because surprisingly, Mehdi Hasan made the bold decision to not turn a blind eye to genocide. Yay, Mehdi. Okay, I'm gonna give him his props there. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I thought he was gonna sell his people out down. I thought he was gonna sell them down the river. I truly believe that. I truly believe Mehdi Hasan was going to sell the Palestinians, but he did it. He did it at the time. Cool, but you know, people get on their own, start their own media company, start trying to get their views, and you know, try to make that conversion over to independent media, and they find out it ain't quite as profitable telling the truth as they thought it was. They found out it wasn't quite as easy to get those views, to get those interviews, to get that stamp of approval, to get those sponsors. They're like, damn, bro, I gotta do everything. So Mehdi Hasan, during his interview with Joe Stein, returned to Mehdi of old.
Cast for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump is an endorsement of genocide. It is an affirmation of genocide.
Lay out for me the steps whereby I go into a voting booth, vote green, and the genocide stops.
Let me put
I don't see that happening.
Clearly. We are creating a very organized coalition that is here for the long haul.
That's right. They were Democrats that were sending cops to campuses to beat up kids on my campus, okay? Coming in riot gear to remove people from encampments.
Yeah. When people are dying en masse from COVID, when he was praising Nazis, doing domestic terrorism, as Butch says, did you ever at any point say, maybe I got that one wrong?
Oh, no.
You said in November 2015, as Assad and Putin were massacring Syrians in their tens of thousands, quote, the US should be working with...
This man said Assad and Putin were massacring Syrians to the tune of tens of thousands. That's just wild to me. He first of all, Putin was invited by Assad. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you just invite Putin to massacre your people when you could just do it yourself? Well, that's not what happened. What, for those of you who do not know, Assad invited Putin to, Syria and Russia have been allies, but specifically Assad, this Assad now, not his daddy, invited Putin because the U.S. funded terrorists to destroy his country. That's why Putin is there, in case you were curious. That's why. They haven't massacred anybody they've been trying to save Syria. Is these terrorists that the U.S. are funding? Because remember, for a long time they kept saying that the U.S. wasn't there, the U.S. wasn't there, the U.S. wasn't there, and then one day the U.S. just showed up, and they never really gave a reason as to why. Oh, excuse me, no, they said ISIS now is there, so yeah. But it's like, damn, why all the pictures I keep seeing with U.S. troops is them training ISIS? Training rebellions. But yeah, this is Mehdi. He's back in form, guys. He ain't want to disappoint y'all. He said, he ain't want to disappoint y'all. He's like, I don't want y'all to think I'm like, I switched up, guys. I'm still the same old Mehdi.
Syria, Russia, and Iran to restore all of Syria to control by the government. That's the Assad government.
That was an unapproved statement, which was taken down the moment it was...
You seem to have a lot of things online that you don't approve. Would you tell your supporters at home, vote green everywhere, but in those 3 swing states, vote against a domestic terrorist?
What? Bruh.
I would say...
Yeah. You're gonna run that back one more time. Because it was just that ridiculous. You're gonna run that back one more time.
Every vote that's cast for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump is an endorsement of genocide. It is an affirmation of genocide.
Lay out for me the step whereby I go into a voting booth, vote green, and the genocide stops. I don't see that happening.
Clearly. We are creating...
Hold on, I don't know why I just thought like that. Give me one second. Can y'all hear that? Or they just decided it's not gonna show? I don't know why it froze. Give me a second, y'all. Just froze up on me. Give me a second. That's crazy. It was not approving. It was not approving. It was like, no, you can't call out Mehdi like that. Oh man. He was so out of pocket that his StreamYard was like, nah, that's wild. Let me pull it back up for y'all. We're gonna watch that again because he was extremely out of pocket.
Every vote that's cast for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump is an endorsement of genocide. It is an affirmation of genocide.
Lay out for me the steps whereby I go into a voting booth, vote green,
Okay.
and the genocide stops.
Let me put
I don't
it
see that
very
happening.
clearly. We are creating a very organized.
So can I just say, do y'all see a situation where you can lay out the steps that voting Democrat instead of green or even Republican stops the genocide? Does that question not go both ways, Mehdi? Like what? What do you? That's a dumbass question. Do I believe that voting for Jill Stein will absolutely stop genocide? No. But what I will not do is reward genocide with my motherfucking vote. That's not gonna happen. I'm not about to be like, hey man, I know y'all are literally y'all gotta understand, people. It's not like Joe Biden and Kamala are just participating in the genocide, right? It's not like Joe Biden and Kamala are just, part of the genocide. They're not just co-conspirators. If the United States stopped funding Israel right now, Israel would have to cease and desist its operations in both Gaza and the West Bank in a matter of 2 to 3 months. In other words, there is no genocide if Kamala, but Biden right now, but if Kamala doesn't fund it, if the United States doesn't fund it, and if she committed to refusing to continue to fund genocide, it would not happen anymore. That is the path forward. And you, Mehdi, who was fired basically for being Muslim, had a little bit too, your British accent wasn't British enough for your brown skin. They were like, yeah, can't have you. Sorry, peace. He sent out like 3 tweets, and it was like that was over for him. So if that's the hill that you died on, at least your mainstream media career, why not just be consistent, man? And be like, you know what? Talk about how using the power of the Green Party and using the influence that y'all have gained recently can help us stop this genocide, even though we know both parties, obviously, have been willing to continue it. That's the question. Because this is a hill that he's already died on. His career is already died on this fucking hill. So be consistent, bro. But no. Back to business.
Coalition that is here for the long haul.
That's right. They were Democrats that were sending cops to campuses to beat up kids on my campus, okay? Coming in riot gear to remove people from encampments.
Yeah. When people were dying en masse from COVID, when he was praising Nazis, doing domestic terrorism, as Butch says, did you ever at any point say, maybe I got that one wrong?
Oh, no.
You said in November 2015, as Assad and Putin.
I'm going to assume that he's saying that that she got it wrong by running in 2016. First of all, I can't stress enough. It ain't Jill Stein's fault that Hillary refused to campaign in multiple states and be one of the shittiest candidates in history. At that, y'all got to remember this in the context of Donald Trump at that point. It should have been easy to beat him. And Hillary got her ass whooped in a situation that if Bernie had won, even though obviously I'm not a fan of Bernie right now, but if Bernie would have won that primary, he would have mopped Donald Trump. It wouldn't even have been close. Hillary lost. Jill Stein had nothing to do with that. Hillary gave no viable alternative. And yet they still want Jill Stein to do some kind of mea culpa.
Were massacring Syrians in their tens of thousands. Quote, the US should be working with Syria, Russia, and Iran to restore all of Syria to control by the government. That's the Assad government.
That was an unapproved statement, which was taken down the moment it was...
You seem to have a lot of things online that you don't approve. Would you tell your supporters at home, vote green everywhere, but in those 3 swing states, vote against a domestic terrorist?
I would say...
Look, man, you saw Butch's face looking like, I'm gonna let you answer this because if I answer this, I'm gonna knock this motherfucker. He looked like I'm gonna cuss him out. If I have to answer this question, I'm cussing him out. That's what he looked like. And I can't believe. I gotta try to find this. Maybe I bookmarked it. While I was watching it, I remember that I think it was Max that posted that Jen Psaki, he interviewed Jen Psaki, and like the way that he was interviewing her as compared to the way that he was interviewing Jill Stein and Butch Ware, like it was clear that he was basically sent after Jill and Butch to do a hit job. An unsuccessful one, in my opinion. And I think that if Jill and Butch did not handle themselves well, in my opinion, he wouldn't have put the interview behind a paywall. Because that's where it's at right now. It's behind the paywall. You can't watch it in its totality unless you pay for it. And I don't know about y'all, I don't give a damn. I'm not paying to watch Mehdi Hasan talk about a damn thing. It's not happening. Okay, no, I gotta go to his page. But I gotta try to find this for y'all because y'all gotta see the contrast. It's the same way like when I was talking about how Angela Rye was interviewing Butch and Jill compared to how she interviewed Kamala with a bunch of bullshit questions that, you know, it was a puff interview. So yeah, this was Max's comment. While sucking up to Genocide Joe's press secretary and propagandist Jen Psaki, Mehdi did not dare to ask if she considered her boss a war criminal. Once again, that's the hill that Mehdi decided to die on. You would think that maybe he would have some conviction there. Careerists like him are more comfortable slapping that label on targets of Washington and leveraging it to bully anti-war activists. Perfectly said. 100% accurate. Because once again, she was a cover guy. She was easy, breezy, beautiful, kind of, not really. Cover girl for Joe Biden and his genocidal administration at one point. And you ain't got no smoke for her? You don't got no smoke for the administration in general? Like, you literally, your career ended because of this genocide. And you're like, but Trump. I actually am not, I think that Mehdi lives in the U.S. now. I don't think that he lived in the U.S. before, but I know he lives here now. But like, after everything that you've witnessed, you are still saying, but Trump, you're calling Trump a domestic terrorist? Do you understand how asinine that statement is? Trump is a lot of things. He's not a damn domestic terrorist, man. Come on. Why do y'all have to hyperbolize everything? Mean tweets is not equal to domestic terrorism. And Jill Stein and her policies have nothing to do with your desire or lack thereof or other people's desires to vote for Trump or Biden, or Harris. Jill Stein's goal is to convince people to vote for Jill Stein. Jill Stein's goal is not to convince people to vote against Kamala or vote against Trump. That's how Democrats campaign. And the fact I'm pretty sure that maybe Jill didn't know that they were going to put it behind a paywall. But like the fact that you put that interview behind the paywall lets me know you just wanted confirmation bias. You just wanted meat to feed to your audience. And if anybody's following you because of your coverage of the Gaza situation, I hope that they unsubscribed and I hope that they unfollowed you because what? The one candidate, well, no, she's not the only candidate. Obviously, Claudia, obviously, Dr. West, but I'm saying like the one candidate that actually can mathematically win, like the one candidate that actually can mathematically win, it is completely and totally anti-genocide and understands why that has to be the case and understands the U.S.'s contribution to this genocide. You want to bombard her instead of uplifting her, which basically comes off to me is like you don't really give a damn about the genocide. You felt like you had to speak out against the genocide because of your own personal ethnic and religious background. It was even your empathy is opportunistic, basically. And once again, I know they're trying to make it come off like they were flustered, but like I know that Jill and Butch handled it well because if he owned them, right? If they didn't handle it well, Mehdi wouldn't have put it behind a paywall. He would have wanted everybody to see it. I'm sure they went back and watched it and was like, Mehdi, bro, this don't really make you look all that good. We gonna have to put that behind a paywall so nobody can see it. You can put out the hot takes. The hottest takes from the interview are the questions that he asked, not their responses to those questions. The questions that he asked, because that was the goal of the interview, to try and make Jill and Butch look unhinged. And I want to be as clear as I can possibly be. And as a matter of fact, we're probably going to watch this. Yeah, we are. We're going to watch my hotspot on this particular situation too, because it's relevant. Trying to claim Putin and like, bro, are y'all trying to start World War III? Because trying to claim that Putin and Assad are responsible for tens of thousands of deaths in Syria, it's just false. It's a lie. And he knows it's a lie. He knows it's a lie. But he pushes it anyway. Why? Because, like I said, it's hard out here in the independent media market. Them checks ain't quite cashing the same as they once were. Before, because y'all remember, Mehdi is an idiot. Mehdi is not a smart, you cannot have a huge platform, ladies and gentlemen, like that and be intelligent. That's not how it works, generally speaking. Or at the bare minimum, you can't have a huge platform, be intelligent, and have integrity. Like you can't have all three. It's not how it works. You're sacrificing somewhere along the line. Mehdi, Mehdi came to my head because like his fucking takes are mid as hell. That's why I said that. It was just like a Freudian slip. But Mehdi happens to have two out of three. He's an idiot and he has no integrity. So they're like, yeah, man, here's the platform. And he was being paid a shitload of money to be a moron and ask dumb questions and give dumb takes while being brown. And I'm pretty sure he's starting to realize being on the right side of history isn't all that profitable. Yeah, we know. It sucks, but hey. I want to show you guys my hotspot video real quick about the current developing situation in Syria, which actually probably has more to do with everything except for Syria. One second, let me pull it up for you guys. Ukraine has sent 250 of their own military members to Syria to train terrorists. And you know what? Somehow the military full of neo-Nazis training terrorists seems perfectly on brand for Ukraine. Now, specifically, Ukraine has sent troops to train terrorists to use drones. Now, some may have the very legitimate question, if Ukraine is having so much trouble dealing with Russia that they barely have enough men to fight their own war, why are they sending troops to train terrorists in Syria? And to keep it simple, it's because Ukraine views Syria as another front of the same war. A source from Idlib said Ukrainians and Americans are transferring battles from Ukraine to Syria in order to open a new front against Russian forces in Syria. The report noted that more than a month ago, a number of Ukrainian intelligence officials had visited Idlib several times to coordinate and plan attacks against Russian troops. For those of you who don't know, Russia has actually been in Syria for some time now. The reason why is because they've been dealing with the interventionism of the US in the area and helping Assad and Syria fight back the terrorist organizations that the United States is training and arming. In other words, this is another escalation by Ukraine. And this isn't even the only time that they've worked with terrorists in order to try and piss off and further stretch Russia's military resources. They did the same thing and are doing the same thing in Burkina Faso. But the real question is why? Why keep extending a war you know you can't win after NATO has already denied you multiple times? So you know that you will never have NATO's full support and you're just sending your men to die in a war that you have no chance of being victorious. Do y'all want to hear my Israel theory? My personal theory is this war in Ukraine is actually not about Russia and Ukraine, but rather Israel. Right now, Ukraine has one job. That's to keep Russia's hands tied. Because if Russia's hands aren't tied, then Russia is free to retaliate in full force against Israel as it attacks Russia's allies in the region. And the only way, really, to keep Russia from just mollywopping Ukraine and wiping them off the face of the planet is to keep opening up separate fronts in separate countries so that maybe you can't win, but you can annoy the hell out of them, and they know Putin strategically is smart enough to not overextend himself, which is more than we could say about the United States. And given what we know about Israel, NATO, and the United States, none of them have any problem sacrificing as many Ukrainian men and young men as necessary to achieve Israel's and NATO's goals. We're basically figuring out just to what degree Ukraine has become a puppet of NATO and Israel. Because from the naked eye, nothing they do seems to make sense strategically. They're sacrificing resources and manpower they don't have in countries they have no business being in. But the reality is, they're just following marching orders, regardless of how many Ukrainian men have to die in order to satisfy the goals of NATO and Israel. Yeah, so I just couldn't help but notice that, at least in this particular clip that we saw from Mehdi, and we haven't really heard it from anybody lately, no one has any questions about why Ukraine is going around training literal terrorists. Does anybody? Because, like I said in the video, this is not the first time that they've done this. They are literally doing the same thing in Burkina Faso. There was a terrorist attack in Burkina Faso, and the Ukrainian intelligence community came out and bragged about their contributions to the attack and how proud they were of those terrorists that they trained. No one has any smoke for Ukraine. No one has any smoke for NATO, or of course, specifically the United States. And this is just going back to the example of what I was trying to explain to you guys from when he was like, Assad and Putin are, no. Putin is only there because terrorists are there. The terrorists are there to overthrow Assad. Assad is trying to save his people, and the U.S. is intervening. If you need the interconnecting fucking block to know the U.S. is intervening, Ukraine would not be sending troops to train terrorists how to use U.S. and NATO arms against Assad unless the United States and NATO approved of them doing so. Because this man Zelensky can't dig his nose or do a bump of coke, whichever one you prefer, without asking NATO first. He can't scratch his ass without asking NATO first. But of course, Mehdi will ignore that. And a lot of people will. But if you've been here for some time, you've been on this channel, if you've watched the show, you've probably already heard my Israel theory, my Israel-Russia theory about the Ukrainian war really being about keeping Russia's hands tied. So if you already watched my other hotspot video about Burkina Faso, I did a hotspot video about them doing this in Burkina Faso, which is insane. What the hell are Ukrainians doing in Burkina Faso of all places? Well, Russians have troops there to help fight against terrorists. Russia has a reputation for winning. They are pretty damn good at getting rid of all the terrorists once they touch down. So Ukrainians sent Burkina Faso to train the terrorists and arm them so that Russia would have to remain there for longer. So they're sending, because this is Ukraine, y'all. They don't have troops to spare. They don't have troops to spare. And strategically for Ukraine, I guess from the naked eye, like, oh man, yeah, they're trying to overextend Russia by having them fight on multiple fronts. Okay, so here's a problem. You're not overextending them, you're overextending yourselves. Y'all don't got nobody. They're literally about to lower the draft age in Ukraine because they don't have enough people to fight. So what is this really about, guys? And once again, you're trying to extend a losing war after you were initially talking about peace talks. And you're not doing this because you think you're going to get into NATO, because NATO has made it very clear at this point. Y'all not getting in, we're using y'all. They're worse than the side piece. They are worse than the side piece. At least the side piece got some kind of hope that there's going to be a chance one day. I'm just waiting for him to leave his wife. No. Y'all not even that, because they told y'all already, I ain't leaving shit. And it's going to be to your detriment. So who is this really about? And what is this really about? It's about keeping Russia's hands tied, because Putin does not like Netanyahu. Russia would, if there was really an all-out war between Israel and then Lebanon, Syria, and Iran, the other three are Russia's buddies. And Putin doesn't like Israel. Oh, and by the way, Putin personally invited Palestine to join BRICS not even a month or some change ago. And after October, it will be official. And at that summit for BRICS, they will be dedicating an entire segment just to discussing the Israel-Palestine issue, more specifically, what Palestine needs for them to be successful and reach their potential, and what they specifically need in this situation regarding Gaza. So I said in my hotspot video the last time when I talked about Putin and Russia personally inviting Palestine to join BRICS, I said, oh, that's a problem. Yeah, it's about to get crazy. And I said that Israel specifically was going to lash out, and that NATO would start lashing out as well, because by Putin saying, I want Palestine to join BRICS, he is saying, not only am I willing to engage in an economic relationship, but I am saying, you fuck with Palestine, you're fucking with Russia. He is letting everyone know where Russia stands on the issue. And when it comes to Russia, you only have so much rope before he goes from making, because Putin don't make threats, he gives warnings. Putin doesn't make threats, he gives warnings. You got so much rope before those warnings turn into your ass getting handed to you. And if Russia decided, because if they could have just wiped Ukraine off the face of the planet, they're trying not to do that, even though they're giving them every reason to do so. But there are a lot of Russians in Ukraine. So obviously, Putin is trying to be judicious in the way that and tactical in the way that he's going about his business. He's always been like that. However, if Russia's hands are not tied by this war in Ukraine, they are free to go smack the shit out of Benjamin Netanyahu for the way that he's been acting in the region, specifically towards the allies of Russia, and for how he's been treating Palestine. And they know Putin will not overextend himself. So NATO is now sending Ukraine, or really sending Ukrainian troops into places where they don't need to be. And they're openly training terrorists now. I mean, what can we say? That's NATO just kind of being a little bit more open. Like neo-Nazis training terrorists, I guess it's kind of like, yeah, that's pretty on brand. Makes a lot of sense. But it's my Israel or my Russia-Israel theory is coming into fruition more and more every day. I need everybody, whenever this shit goes down, I need y'all to remind everybody who was saying this shit 3, 4, 5 months ago. I have been saying it. And Russia literally invites Palestine to join BRICS, and Ukraine is trying to overextend Russia right after the announcement that Russia personally invited Palestine to join BRICS. It's happening. I said Israel's not going to last. Israel is done. Everything from here on out is a reaction from Israel. Even the situation with Hezbollah and Lebanon, which we're going to talk about, that's a reaction, ladies and gentlemen. That is, oh shit, we got to start winning this shit. We got to do whatever we got to do, and we got to do it now. We have to do it now, because now Russia is drawing a line in the sand, and because of all of these Western countries approving their weapons to be used in Russian territory, that Russia gonna start amping shit up. And most importantly, they have not shown their hand. Putin said, yeah, we're just using old weapons. Even the weapons we give to other countries, that's old weapons. They've been mollywhopping Ukraine with old weapons. Putin has made it clear in his interview. He said it with Tucker Carlson. He said, more or less, we haven't even gotten into our bag yet. Y'all have no idea what we're capable of. Actually, we haven't shown y'all shit. We haven't even shown y'all anything yet. And Israel's probably smart enough to know that. So they're like, yeah, whatever we're doing, we got to do it now. Because once Putin commits, that's it for your ass. That's the facts. So this Russia-Israel theory is coming into fruition in real time. And people ain't really paying attention. I'm surprised more people didn't talk about Russia personally inviting Palestine to join BRICS. You would think that's a pretty big damn deal, because BRICS is not only an economic partnership, it's military as well. You got Venezuela joining BRICS. Everybody that the U.S. kind of fucked with in the last year, well, really the last several years, but specifically the last year and a half, 2 years, Putin be like, hey, big head. I heard you got a little bully on your back. Don't worry about it. Come over here. Get behind me. I'll take care of you. I got you, big boy. And he's been, bro, right now, BRICS makes up, as it currently stands, 40% of the world's economy. 40%. But what that 40% really means, like, you make up 40% of the world's economy. What does that mean militarily? What does that mean militarily? Because once again, there's another country that we really don't know what their capabilities are because of how good they've been at kind of keeping everything close to the chest. Iran. Iran is so effective in strategic militarily that they can fund groups around the region to fight wars and have their generals go out and train them and have them kick terrorists out. And they don't even got to send their people, like their marching army. So we don't even know what their capabilities are. And you can't go, once again, I will maintain there's a reason we won't invade Iran because we won't win. When we wanted to go after Iraq, we were like, yeah, let's go ahead. We got it. We wanted to go after it. We didn't really have it, but, enough. We had it enough, I guess. And it's because of how close we were with the Iraqi government only recently, relatively speaking, at the time. Went to Afghanistan. We knew the territory. And we knew we could, quote unquote, win because we weren't really fighting anybody, I guess, really. We were just killing a bunch of innocent people, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Even going to Syria, it's like a 50-50. But, okay, you talking all that shit. You swear up and down Iran's the biggest threat in the world, and better, okay, go into Iran. Do the same thing to Iran, because y'all want regime change in Iran. Go in Iran and try that shit that y'all tried in Iraq and Libya. I mean, y'all saw how long it took in Libya. And they had to get their neighbors involved. They had to get Chad involved to send terrorists across the border. That was a very complicated and 2 decades long operation that finally came into fruition. And we didn't send our troops to get it done. We had troops there, but it ultimately was not our troops that won. We can't go into Iran because we'll lose. The United States will lose. They'll get their asses handed to them. They know it. So right now, Israel is flailing out of desperation. Ukraine is just doing what NATO wants them to do. That's why they're like strategically, everything looks so sporadic and just stupid. I don't know how else to describe it. Like these plans, the way that they're carrying them out, the decisions that they're making. Like you just got denied a NATO membership because of your corruption. And you're like, yeah, you know how we're going to improve our image? We're going to go fund and train a bunch of terrorists in countries we have no business being in the middle of a war. We're not winning. But when you look at it from the perspective of, oh no, this is all about keeping Russia's hands occupied, because Russia right now, they help a little bit in Niger, but Niger kind of had their situation under control. They're more involved in Burkina Faso. So they literally sent Ukrainian troops to train and fight in Burkina Faso. What the hell are you doing in Burkina Faso? Wherever Russia's at, we got to be there. Wherever Russia's at, we got to be there. We got to keep them occupied. We have to not just keep them occupied. It's more than that. You have to see if they're going to, we have to see their capabilities. That's how, not just Ukraine. Ukraine's obviously passing all their intel to the United States and NATO. They have to follow Russia because they're like, before we start this shit, because I think that we all know about now, it started. World War III, the silent World War III has been ongoing. The loud World War III is on the way. It's on the way. I think there's a chance that it could be put off if Trump wins, because Trump don't like fighting losing wars. He don't like losing. I don't think that, I just don't believe that he'll start a new war. I just feel like he's gonna be like, hey man, can everybody calm the fuck down? Can everybody just calm down? Let's just talk this through. I know a lot of things have been said and done over the last several years. It has nothing to do with me. But if Kamala wins, yeah, it's going from a quiet World War III to a loud ass World War III. But they need to know what Russia's capabilities are before. They have to know beforehand. Because if they find out on site, they found out that even with Russia's own weapons, they can mollywop Ukraine. Ukrainian soldiers, they were like, yeah, we done. Surrender. They got to find them on the street. Boy, Ukrainian soldiers are Ukrainian men are literally pretending to be women because they don't want to fight. Okay? So, but that's what this is all about, in my opinion. And I feel like otherwise, there's no. If y'all have another explanation or have seen somebody else with another explanation, I would love to hear it. But in my opinion, that is the only thing that makes sense. Ukraine isn't fighting Russia in Burkina Faso because they think it will help them beat Russia. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely going to end the war by continuing to provoke Russia and their allies by sending your fucking troops that you barely have enough of to other countries to fight and train terrorists. Like, that's going to stop the war in Russia? Strategically, it makes no sense. But it does make sense if you want to keep Israel from getting their ass handed to them by Russia. Because it ain't just going to be Russia. If Russia commits to that war in the region, if Russia commits, you have to remember, Israel's economy is in the tank. I don't know if y'all know that, but it is. Israel's economy is in the tank. That's why if the U.S. stop funding them, they can't win. They have to stop the genocide. They can't even fight women and children without the U.S.'s funding. That's how bad their economy is right now. Hell, Yemen just sent the supersonic missile that went right the fuck past the Iron Dome. Did y'all know that? The Iron Dome did not detect it, and Yemen got a missile past the Iron Dome. Yemen. And if Yemen can get a missile past the Iron Dome, what do you think Russia could do? What do you think? Because they were talking all that shit, like, even Iran said, like, yeah, we were literally just testing your Iron Dome system. We just wanted to see what it can do, what they can handle. They were sending out distraction missiles, distraction drones, all that shit. And I said back then, I was like, yeah, Iran's fucking with Israel. They just want to see what Israel can do. And they also know that whenever the Iron Dome fires off those missiles, somebody got to pay for them and somebody got to replenish them. And they also wanted to know who was going to participate in the interception of those missiles and drones once they launch. Iran got all that information, all that intel. You think they didn't pass that over to Yemen? And you know what Yemen did with it? Bitch, we gonna send one missile. We don't even need to send all of them. We got all the intel we need. Yemen of all countries, people. So if Yemen can do that, what do you think Russia can do? Or better yet, where y'all think they got the missile from? Where do you think they got the missile from? They probably got it from Russia. You know, Putin been out there handing out missiles like Oprah. You get a missile. You get a missile. You get a missile. We're gonna switch gears. We're gonna switch gears here really quick for a little laugh, because anytime Nancy Pelosi opens her mouth, you know it's gonna be a laugh. Pull this up for you guys.
You had reportedly said you wanted a sort of an open primary if Joe Biden stepped down. Did you change your mind because you saw all the excitement around Kamala Harris?
No, I didn't change my mind. We had an open primary and she won it. Nobody else got in the race because she was politically astute. And
you had reportedly said you wanted a...
Yeah, I know that some of y'all probably are very confused by that whole exchange, because the question, I don't know if Nancy Pelosi understands what the word open primary means, nor do I know if the crowd knows that they just clapped for a lie, or the fact that Nancy Pelosi just lied to everybody. Was like, yeah, man, everybody knew that she was politically astute and there was no argument whatsoever. When we know that wasn't the case either, but we're gonna watch that again.
You had reportedly said you wanted a sort of an open primary if Joe Biden stepped down. Did you change your mind because you saw all the excitement around Kamala Harris?
No, I didn't change my mind. We had an open primary and she won it. Nobody else got in the race because she was politically astute. And
I don't know. I guess I just don't know what words means. And I don't know what words are. I don't know definitions in words anymore. I don't. She said, It was an open primary. She won it. But she won't even go in against anybody because no one entered it. Because she was so politically astute. So everybody believed in her. What? It can't be all of those things, Nancy. You do know that. An open primary means that anyone can enter the race. Anyone has a chance to win. And what this interviewer meant by open primary was there would be some type of election process. And I want to be clear. Hold on. I thought I said the damn article, but I forgot to save it. Make sure this is it. Oh, so this is just a little tidbit about this open primary process that Kamala supposedly benefited from. People forgot there's whole explanations as to why that was such a shit show. So this is from the Brookings. On Sunday, Joe Biden dropped out the race for his party's nomination and quickly endorsed his Vice President, Kamala Harris. In a little more than 24 hours, she has consolidated the party around her candidacy. That's new. Okay. Sounds like open primary to you guys? Okay. Why is this happening so quickly? Several reasons. First of all, the Democrats mentioned as successors to Biden, none have undergone presidential level vetting. I'm going to repeat that. None have undergone presidential level vetting. In order to become vice president in the first place, Harris passed the vetting test. What the fuck? What? And 4 years in the White House was plenty of time for any other skeletons in her closet to be outed. Not so for the other possible candidates. Yeah, if I'm being honest, the skeletons are coming out and it's biting her in the ass. Hell, no. And what's crazy about that is we ended up finding out that we hadn't even got all the skeletons out the closet. We thought that we outed everything, but apparently there was more stuff. And we didn't even know that. So that's not even true. But okay, so there wasn't it. So in other words, this is the first example of how there was no open process. The Democrats decided that no one had been vetted. Okay. Then there's the practical reason. The party had run out of time. Many well-meaning Democrats, from James Carville to Nancy Pelosi to Jim Clyburn, have suggested the party run a mini primary to replace Biden if he chose to get out. The mini primary would not require any formal rules changes, but could consist of town hall meetings, question and answer sessions with delegates, and perhaps even debates. Yeah, right. But as the weeks dragged on with the party in limbo, it became clear that the sheer logistics of putting a process together was overwhelming. It was super overwhelming to put together a fucking election. Not even with everybody, just with delegates, guys. Do y'all understand? It just to say with delegates. And they were like, that's too much. They could put together a $200 million convention with no problem, but delegates, ugh. Town halls, ugh. Debates, oh. Well, that's like a curse word for Democrats. It is not clear that anyone but Kamala would take part in a mini primary. Third, no one seems to want to run against Kamala Harris. Many Democrat stars have been mentioned as possible successors over the past 3 weeks, but not one of them was doing the things one would do to run a national campaign, like calling delegates and asking for their votes. So in other words, there was no primary. And once again, they said the process of a primary would be too difficult. So they already made it. So it's weird that they put this third. This would probably be second because they said it was too hard to do a primary process. So we were like, fuck it. So in other words, no one called. You're telling me that none of the Democratic Party members called to be a part of a process that didn't exist because it was too overwhelming? Why would I throw my hat to compete in a process to win a nomination that has already been handed to somebody because you just announced? Yeah, that shit's too hard, bro. We're not even doing that process. I mean, you can throw your hat in there, but I don't know why, because this shit ain't happening. Sparky, thank you very much for the super chat. I think you're right. I've been saying that Ukraine firing missiles at Russia's early warning radar was to reduce Russians' ability to warn Iran about a missile attack from Israel. Astute observation there. Astute observation. Where are we at? Okay. Fourth is that she is uniquely qualified to step in. After all, the whole reason we have vice presidents in the first place is that they can take over quickly. Well, if she has to take over because of the mental collapse of Biden, why not have her step in now? Oh, that's right, because they don't want her to take any of the blame for Biden administration policies. They want her to just receive all the credit for the things that he allegedly did that was good. Triangulation, my friends. Kamala has been in the White House for nearly 4 full years. She has led delegations overseas. Bro, fly on a fucking plane with other important people is not leading delegations overseas. I just want to be clear about that. She has listened to classified briefings. Oh, joy. She listened to classified briefings in a room where she was required to be at because that's her job. She's not given any indication, however, that she's actually understood those briefings. Let's continue. She has negotiated with Congress. Yeah, like that time where she could have been the deciding vote for Medicare for all while she was a tiebreaker and decided instead to not pass Medicare for all as the tiebreaker. Wow. She's a master negotiator, guys. We'll start calling her Kamala Trump. Although the 2028 candidates are a talented bunch, they would need some briefing time to answer questions about our role in NATO, our weapon systems on the Ukrainian field, our goals in Gaza, etc. Has Kamala actually substantively addressed any of these? And has she shown in any way how her answer would actually be different than the 2028 candidates? Pretty sure they're all pretty much in a consensus. We'll do whatever we're told. That is the response to all those questions. Every Democratic candidate. Whatever it is with NATO wants, whatever our weapon systems are in Ukraine, whatever the situation is in Gaza, we'll do what we're told. I don't think they need a long briefing on that. They already got that briefing. They get that briefing in the form of paychecks on a pretty regular basis. Over the course of a long primary campaign, candidates get tested on these issues and they learn. Once again, there is no time. Hey, anybody, has Kamala gotten tested on these issues in the course of a long primary? Oh, that's right. She did get tested on a lot of these issues during that last long primary process. And unfortunately for Kamala, the primary process was a little too long for her because she couldn't make it to the end because she had to fucking drop out. She was picked. They took her ass out of the mud, dusted her off, and was like, yep, you're the VP now. And with that VP position that she was literally handed after she was selected in 2017 by Hillary Clinton's donors in the Hamptons, you know what she did with that VP that was handed to her, that position? She was the worst VP in history. Literally, people consider her the worst VP in history. Do you understand how hard that is? I can see how it can be easy to be a popular VP, because if you go around just saying what you feel like saying, and like even if you're against the president, you're willing to say it, even if, you know, or if the president hasn't made a statement on something because he has to be careful, but you're being bold about it, saying like, this is the administration, this is me talking. I can see that. But you know how hard it is to be the most unpopular VP when you basically ain't been doing shit as VP. It's just that every time you open your mouth, everybody realize like, God damn, this woman actually does not know what the hell she's talking about. In any way, she's not demonstrated that she understands any of the issues that she needs to. She didn't demonstrate that she understood the issues that she needed to be aware of while being the head of the Senate. Because when she had the opportunity to do a tiebreaker in Medicare for all, You think the smart thing would be, I'm going to let that shit go to the House and I'm going to let Nancy and them deal with it because I'm not about to fuck my future potential up and be president. I'm going to let them deal with it. They want Medicare for all. I'm going to make Biden, because her and Biden supposedly didn't even get along that well. Their camps were not on the same page, people, supposedly. That's what the rumors are. So if that's the case, hey, shit, y'all problem now, Medicare for all. You don't, so like she doesn't even demonstrate any level of political acuity, even while being VP. So like y'all decided y'all aren't going to have a primary process because of reasons that make zero sense. And because you thought that, I'm sorry, it was just so overwhelming, guys. It was an open primary that was too overwhelming to be a primary. So it never happened. And everybody was like, yeah, she's super politically astute. What? How? I don't like when people just make these open statements. If I say somebody's politically astute, I'm generally going to give you a list of reasons how I know. Here's all the ways that they've demonstrated to me that this person is politically astute and they know what they're talking about. You know all the ways that Kamala has demonstrated she's politically astute? She is so politically astute that they have literally hid her from the cameras to the point where when she finally did her first full-length interview, she had to have a butt buddy, like kids on a field trip so they don't get lost. She showed up with a chaperone and 10 walls. And the first interview she did was national news, which is weird as shit. If Trump does interviews all the time, Trump does rallies all the time, Trump talks all the time, Trump get on Twitter all the time, Trump talk to whoever the hell he feel like talking to. It don't make the news when Trump does an interview. Maybe something he said in the interview. But when your headline before you start the interview is literally Kamala, before we even get to the interview, guys, Kamala to do her first big interview, her first presidential interview, her first interview system. What the hold on. You trying to that's a headline? That don't sound politically astute to me. It sounds like you know that she's not politically astute and then you don't want everybody else to know it. But that was a headline. That was a headline. The fact that that was a headline is not a good thing. People, it is terrifying. If I'm the Democratic Party, I mean. For me, I don't care. I love the chaos. I'm perfectly fine with chaos within the Democratic Party. But to me, it just seems like maybe just perhaps Nancy Pelosi doesn't really know what an open primary is. And I can't believe she had the audacity to say that. That's some fucking wild shit. It's audacious, and I can't understand how any self-respecting leftist, hell, even liberals, I'm gonna even throw liberals in there. How any self-respecting human being really can be part of a party who quite literally gaslights you to the point where you think that you're the crazy one? This level of gaslighting is just unbelievable to me. And then to hear people clap at the end of it, like, yeah, Nancy's preaching. She just lied to y'all. Told y'all there was an open primary when there wasn't a real, even whenever Biden was running, there wasn't a real primary. So there was like not even a primary process. She lied to y'all, told y'all that there was a primary process whenever they literally said the Democratic elite were like, nah, it'd be too hard to do a primary process, so we're not even gonna do that shit. And she's like, nobody wanted to join. Well, nobody wanted to join the race because you said there wasn't gonna be a race. And everybody's like, fucking clapping seals. That's just, whoo. It does make me happy to know that like most of the country is independent and like technically speaking, Democrats are like a minority. Technically speaking, Democrats are a minority, so like the majority of the country doesn't think like that. And even I'm sure like most Democrats aren't that dumb, but there are too many of them. And there's enough of them to make it a problem for the rest of us. Republicans are a little bit more unpredictable. You never know where Republicans are going to go. But Democrats, y'all just be voting just for your own demise. I I know like the majority of Democrats got to be in like emotionally abusive relationships. Like hardcore liberals got to be in emotionally abusive relationships for sure. Got to be, right? Because there's no way you can keep running back to this shit with a smile on your face every 2, 4, 6 years. There's no way. After you gaslight it and gaslight it and gaslight it and gaslight it and be like, but this time it's going to be different. There's no way, bro. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like, bro, I was never a registered Democrat. I gave them a chance to vote for them in 2016. And after that, I was like, well, yeah, that's it. Fuck that. It took me one time. It don't take me much to know when I'm in an abusive relationship. I'm like, yeah, nah, this seems like a very abusive relationship. I'm about to deuces, vote for Jill Stein, peace. I'm so glad I didn't become a Democrat. I didn't even register as a Democrat to vote for them. Last topic, people. Last topic. It looks like Israel is just straight up committing terrorist attacks. I'm sure that most of you all have heard about the pager situation, the pager explosions. Listen to this, or rather read these comments from an Israeli about, I don't know if he's bragging about it because it seems like he's like just trying to educate him, but like, look at this.
שרשת סקיי ניוז בערבית מפרסמת על הפעולה.
נכון, מירי, פרטים מאוד מעניינים שמתפרסמים ממש בדקות האלה. קודם כל, המוסד הישראלי הוא זה שניהל את הפעולה והוא זה שעומד מאחוריה. לפי הדיווח, המוסד החדיר חומרים נפיצים לתוך הסוללות של אותם מכשירי קשר ופוצצו אותם באמצעות העלאת הטמפרטורה של הסוללות. מיד נסביר איך זה עובד, אבל החדרת החומר הזה בוצע עוד לפני שאותם מכשירים נמסרו לידיהם של פעילי חיזבאללה. מן הסתם, זאת אומרת, במשך כל החודשים האחרונים, פעילי חיזבאללה מסתובבים ברחבי לבנון, שיש להם ממש כלי נשק ישראלי כנראה בידיים. לפי הדיווח הזה, חומר הנפץ שבו השתמשו במוסד נקרא PETN, שזה אחד מחומרי הנפץ הדליקים והמסוכנים ביותר שמוכרים בעולם. זה חומר נפץ שרגיש לחום ולחיכוך, וזה אולי מה שמסביר את מנגנון הפעולה, כי ברגע שהטמפרטורה של הסוללה עלתה מאוד, אז חומר הנפץ שנמצא בתוכה.
So, for those of you who may be listening in your car, or listening in audio only, this gentleman explains that these explosives were put in these pagers months in advance. So it was explosives. The batteries were heated, and the explosives are one of the that material is some of the most explosive in the world. And of course, as you all know, the result has been thousands of people injured, mostly innocents. And at least the deaths of 2 individuals, and one of them was a little girl. This is just from there was 12 individuals, and I want to say 2 of them were kids. First of all, that's insane. I don't know how else you refer to that other than a terrorist attack. Right? That's not a military operation. Would y'all, like, would any sane individual consider that a military operation? Because you have to remember, a military operation is like planning, strategy. You are trying, in the case of normal fucking people that aren't psychopaths, you're trying to reduce collateral damage. You're trying to reduce civilian casualties. You are, it's supposed to be surgical. A military operation, normally, it's supposed to be surgical. You at least want to maintain the air of like consideration when it comes to preventing civilian casualties. At least pretend, right? You want the ability to show that your military strategy was trying to reduce civilian casualties. They put a bunch of bombs in pagers months in advance. Those people from Hezbollah just went on about their business, got these pagers. They're all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I do have to remind people, Hezbollah, not a terrorist organization. I just need to be clear about that. They're literally a political organization, not unlike what you would see in any other country. And they have a military to protect their country. They refer to Hezbollah as a terrorist organization because there's a bunch of brown people and they don't like Israel. and they want the liberation of Lebanon from the oppressor. That's about it. And they don't like putting up with Israel shit. Okay? So when you say a pager is in the hands of Hezbollah, you know that could mean a representative. Well, that could be what we were referring to as the equivalent of a city council member. Yeah, that could also mean a soldier. But it could be any of those things. That's my point. It can be any of those things. It could be a city council member, a assembly member, or a soldier. And they're around any of their family or civilian friends. And that's why so many civilians got hurt. That's why so many civilians. And the kicker of all this is, yeah, Israel pre-installed. So first of all, they have a mole. So I guess we should address that. Israel or Lebanon has a mole within the organization. And Israel has a capability to hyperheat batteries from a distance. And it's wild because it's like pagers, guys. Pagers, you know, if you're from the US, we haven't used pagers since the 90s. So whatever tech they have, somehow they were able to activate it from a distance, obviously, over a certain amount of time, hyperheat these pagers and detonate them. I don't know what's worse. The fact that Lebanon has a mole, the fact that Israel can detonate these pagers from a distance, or the fact that Israel's blatant disregard for civilian casualties is completely and totally unaccounted for by any of the governments that support them. These motherfuckers, some bitch trying to say, hey man, we just didn't even know about it. They're not even addressing the fact like, yo, Israel just committed a terrorist attack and they took credit for it and they're bragging about it. They didn't conduct a military operation, guys. They committed a terrorist attack. It's what's wildest to me about this. This is something that even I would venture to say the United States couldn't get away with this, with doing something like this. Even the US couldn't get away with this. This is just a straight up terrorist attack. And you got a bunch of people like Ben Shapiro and all the Zionist talking heads literally going around Twitter saying this is the most, strategic and targeted terrorist operation in history. No, what you mean is it's the most strategic and targeted terrorist attack in history? Is that what you mean to say? But they're going around repeating it like it's puppet Zionist talking points. You know it, which is because I guess if you just left it up to the general public to discuss, the general consensus is, no, that's definitely a terrorist attack. You just went after a bunch of random people. And some of them happen to be Hezbollah. And everybody else? So obviously that sparked the war. So yeah, Israel and Lebanon they're at it for real now. That shit, that's over. Any chance of peace, that's gone. Because you just kind of committed a whole terrorist attack. And now the rest of the world, you got like, how does the rest of the world feel about this? How do you think, like, once again, you bring it back to Russia. How do you think Russia feels about this? How do you think Iran feels about this? Because now it's not just y'all attacking people with missiles. Y'all somehow have a device y'all have a middleman that can preload explosives. And y'all have some tech to hyperheat these batteries so that these devices explode. Y'all think that these countries are that's not a nuclear weapon. But the threat and the danger of that capability is real as a nuclear weapon is. Because now there's these rumors that that's likely what happened with the Iranian president dying in the helicopter. Like that rumor's floating around. It's a possibility now. That makes sense. The randomness of it. The confusion surrounding it, also part of the reason maybe why Iran was so they're so spacey about the details, like, or at least they're playing close to the chest, or they were, because maybe they're like, well, this doesn't make any sense type shit. Like, we can't come out and say like, You can't really prove, especially with the helicopter wreckage. It's probably nothing there that would have directly linked it back to Israel. But like, that would explain it. Why Iran couldn't come out and be like, yep, that's Israel and this is exactly how they did it. Because it wasn't by a missile, but there was an explosion. So now they got technology that we might not even be aware of. And this response from the US is absolutely unacceptable. Y'all have to listen to this bull.
Been a series of deaths and injuries apparently from exploding pagers. Was the U.S. have any knowledge? What does it know now, and when did it know about what has happened?
So we are gathering information on this incident. I can tell you that the U.S. was not involved in it. The U.S. was not aware of this incident in advance, and at this point, we're gathering information.
And what information have you gathered so far?
We'll continue to collect information. I don't have any public readout to give now, but we're collecting information in the same way that journalists are across the world to gather the facts about what might have happened.
Obviously, it doesn't take much guesswork who the most likely culprit would be in terms of doing this, in terms of who the enemy of Hezbollah is. Do you have any indications that to doubt that it would be Israel that was behind the...
I don't have any assessment to offer one way or other at this point.
And I know you're saying that, but in terms of what this means, I mean, there's been
How do you not have any assessment to offer? Israel came out and take credit. Boy, isn't that wild how Israel will literally come out and take credit for some shit, and this motherfucker will look y'all dead in the face. He'll look the journalist dead in the face. He looks Cameron dead, and he be like, yeah, man, so we just don't know what happened, bro. We can't even call it. Well, Israel just came out and took credit for this. Yeah, but do we know that for sure? I think we need to let Israel conduct an internal investigation to determine whether or not, well, they're telling you already that they did it. They're claiming credit for it. They're bragging about it. They're happy about yeah, but we don't know that for sure. Just because Israel said they did it doesn't mean that they actually did it, nor does it mean that the United States knows that they did it. Let's just let all this blow over, do an investigation, and we'll get back to you. And by get back to you, they mean let's just hope that y'all never bring any of this up again. Basically what he means.
Number of weeks to talk of dialing down, or at least not having a retaliation from Iran over, sort of a tit for tat, if you will. How does this play into it? Is there any message that you're sending to Israel in terms of what to do next, and to Iran, to Hezbollah, in terms of how to respond to this?
So I never want to either comment or speculate about the impact of any one incident, especially in the early stages of an incident.
You don't want to speculate about the impact of a country being able to preload explosives and then use some type of unknown technology, which probably known to the U.S., but relatively unknown technology to detonate from another country. You don't want to talk about the impact of that. You don't think that's important to talk about? You have zero comments on that. Some shit from a sci-fi movie going down, leading to the injuries of thousands of innocent people and the deaths of at least a dozen. You ain't got nothing to say. Then I don't think that you understand the whole point of a spokesperson. You're supposed to spokes about shit. You ain't got nothing to spokes? Nothing. You ain't got nothing to spokes about. Okay. So why the hell are you even in this job? Because every time we see Matt Miller, this motherfucker talking about how he ain't got to comment on nothing. Then how are you collecting a paycheck to comment on shit when you ain't never got no comments? Jesus Christ.
And I'm not going to do so here. That's been our consistent policy to try and avoid doing. I will say that our overall policy remains consistent, which is we do want to see a diplomatic resolution to the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. We want to see one that allows the tens of thousands of Israelis who've been displaced from their homes and the tens of thousands of Lebanese who have been displaced from their homes to be able to return home. And that's what we are continuing to do.
No. So let me just say really quick before we get up out of here. No, there have not been tens of thousands of Israelis displaced from their homes. I just want to be clear about that. There have been tens of thousands of Israelis who bought a plane ticket to fly back to their home country because after they were talking all that shit, they realized that they didn't want the smoke. That's not being displaced from your home. When you can just buy a motherfucking ticket, go through customs, and they're like, oh, yep, that's your passport. Here you go. Welcome home. You just going to your summer home. That's not being displaced from your home. That's just going from one home to another. Lebanese people, on the other hand, have been displaced from their homes. Why? Because Israel stays bombing the shit out of Lebanon. Syrian people have been displaced from their homes. Obviously, Palestinians have been displaced from their homes. Like, and then, like, tens of thousands of Israelis flooded the fucking airport, something that Gazans, I'm sure, wish they could do. They can't flood any airport because, Israel destroyed it. But for you to not have no comment, bro, you have zero comment on this. Like, you can't even be like, man, yeah, nah, we gotta have some kind of line that we draw, right? Like detonating pagers from a distance with preloaded explosive devices in civilian areas. I feel like that should be one of those red lines. But, Captain No Comment strikes again. Thank you very much for the super chat, Spark A. Booby trapping common non-military items civilians use is actually against either the Geneva Convention or the international law. Probably both. No matter to the U.S. or Israel, though, each is a signatory to both. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Since when did international law apply to Israel or the U.S. or NATO or anybody that isn't black or brown? Except for Putin. Putin don't get that luxury. Putin apparently might have been black in the past life because they be treating him like international laws always apply to him, but everybody else. Yeah, it's out the window for everybody else. So, oh man, we just got a long road ahead of us, guys. It's not the only positive that I can say is that with Palestine eventually joining BRICS in the very, 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 very near future, there's a line being drawn in the sand. And in my opinion, it means something that Russia is letting the world know that they're standing with Palestine because of how much influence Russia's economy has on the rest of the world, because obviously militarily, how much the influence they have on the rest of the world, because of their, I mean, let's be honest, right? It's Russia and China running BRICS. So even if China isn't necessarily making a stand like we would like for them to make, they made some statements, but it's not the same thing. Because we know, like, when it comes to backing up their talk, Russia is about it. China will say some shit and then sell. China will call themselves a communist country and say, yeah, fuck capitalism, and then literally help, they'll take all the U.S. jobs, deregulate, and engage in hypercapitalism. So, like, it's not the same. When Putin says, yeah, fuck you, there's a missile and some troops behind it. And when Putin calls you an ally, like he does with Assad in Syria, like he does with Iran, by helping them, like he said, even with Kim Jong-un, by handing them missiles, like he did in Burkina Faso, while every other NATO power is trying to overthrow Western government, or African governments, Russia is backing the freedom fighters to make sure that NATO can't overthrow African governments. So whenever someone tries to say, oh, what are you, a Putin puppet? Oh, was that, they're just Russian propaganda. Oh, they're working for Putin. What? You know what? Next time, ask, okay, so like, let's just say Joe Stein's a Putin puppet. What does that mean? What does that actually mean materially? What would that look like policy-wise? So you're telling me that we would be fighting alongside Russia to stop governments from being overthrown by NATO? Okay. Didn't sound so bad so far. Okay, so you're telling me that instead of trying to overthrow African governments, we would actually work with the African people, not extort them, but work with them and help prevent the governments from being overthrown. Okay, doesn't sound like a bad deal so far. Oh shit! So we would actually help facilitate and create robust economies in the countries that have traditionally been economically oppressed by the West. Okay, so it doesn't sound too bad either. And what else? Oh, and Palestine. So that's what being a Putin puppet means? I'm not really sure where okay, so I guess like the one complaint you would have about being a Putin puppet is it's fucking cold in Russia. Like it's cold as hell. Who likes it cold? I don't. Okay, you got me. But like, what does being a Putin puppet actually mean materially? So you got to show me. Does it mean, oh, you don't like the U.S.'s policies? No, motherfucker, we don't. We don't like that. We don't like the U.S.'s policies. Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true. 100% facts. But I want to, next time somebody calls you a Putin puppet, the next time somebody calls you a son of Putin, like ask them, okay, so what does that mean? What do you feel like me being a Putin puppet means? Oh, you're quoting Russian propaganda. Okay, what's the propaganda? What is the propaganda? If they can't give you the answer, okay, so damn that. If it's not the propaganda, then what does it mean actually? Guarantee you they won't have an answer. I guarantee it, because they have to say, at least with the side, they can try to, I guess now they'll be like, well, what about Ukraine? I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want neo-Nazis killing my people too after I gave them a fucking warning for 10 years about doing so, and they continue to do it. Like, sorry. That's not going to really affect me either, but I guess that's about it. At least with the side, they could pretend the narrative of oh yeah, he gassed people. It's not true, but like they could pretend like that narrative was true for long enough. They tried the same thing with Gaddafi. But right now, given the state of the world, what does being a Putin puppet actually mean? Like materially. Putin don't have puppets. That's the difference. The U.S. has puppets. Putin has allies. That's how he can make BRICS right now, 40% of the world's economy. You know how, like in a short span of time, because what really probably sparked off the BRICS revolution really was the Ukrainian war, because like shit was popping off. And immediately he could, hey man, Avengers, assemble. Boom, 40% of the economy. Conference, summit, conference. Saudi Arabia. He got Saudi Arabia to give the U.S. the middle finger, y'all. Like that. Putin has allies. The United States, however, has puppets. And you want to talk about playing team sports and playing for the winning team? Look. I'm just saying, if you really want to play for the winning team, I suggest you start learning one of them languages in them BRICS countries. Because it's coming. Y'all, look, Putin don't look like he plays for 40% of the world's economy. I'm gonna put it like that. Just from what we've seen. Y'all saw how calculated that man was whenever the Ukraine war started. And they're like, yeah, we're going to sanction you and da-da-da-da-da. He's like, yeah, good luck with that. Oh, shit. Now all of your economies are failing? Oh, what a shame. Keep pena. What a damn shame. Who could have predicted that all of your economies would fail if y'all really tried to fuck with me? Oh, that's right. I did. That's why I did everything in advance to prepare for this very moment that y'all motherfuckers thought y'all had a gotcha. Y'all thought y'all gotcha? No, got you, motherfucker. Good luck staying warm in the winter, Europe. Woo, boy, that was the boy. He hit you with the reverse. Yo. Putin really hit them with the reverse. Like, that's like I said, y'all. They got to keep that man's hands tied. They got to keep Russia's hands tied. They got to. Because otherwise, it's on. And once it gets started, it's not going to be pretty. It sucks that we even got to this point, because you could tell Putin does not want World War III. He doesn't want it. He actually values human life. It's more than what we can say about the U.S. And I'm not just saying values human life like we talk about the Holocaust for Jewish people, but we ignore the Holocaust in Congo. Not that kind of value. He values all human life. He even values the lives of those fighting on behalf of his enemies. You can just look at the way he's fighting in Ukraine. You can look at how he engages against the U.S. in areas where we're not technically fighting each other. You know, because we're not supposed to say that we're there. Like, he actually values human life. And it isn't limited to the color of your skin or your last name. And by last name, I mean people who are from Israel and Zionists. That's what I meant. And I said what I meant. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of For the People podcast. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you support the show by becoming a patron on Patreon. You can also become a premium member on YouTube. You can also ask me a question on Q Bounty. All the links to that are in the description below. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. The link to that's in the description. Follow us on Hotspot. Y'all, they nuked our YouTube Hotspot page. They nuked our Instagram Hotspot page. I don't want to talk about it like that because I'm really, really upset because it was a lot of work for us. Oh, and our Facebook page. And I hate Facebook. But we built up all that shit for the last 2 or 3 years and they nuked the shit out of it. So, yeah, that hurt, y'all. It's right there. That one hurt. But that's why it's important to follow us wherever. Make sure y'all subscribe on Telegram, all that good stuff to get updates. You know, we're going to keep on pushing through. Me and my hotspot brethren, gonna keep on pushing through. So yeah, like I said, like this video, share this video, leave a comment below. Even after the replay, go leave a comment. It helps push us in the algorithm. Like the video because it helps push us in the algorithm. Go follow us on Rockfin, go follow us on Rumble. But of course, more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.